What up, whammers? I hope that woke you up. I've decided now that anybody who listens to this show is called a whammer. I'd like to point out that the ongoing hatred of Craig has now infected this show.
Yeah.
Everybody despises this fucking bear.
It's also, from the artist in me, it's the horrific tangents of the microphone and the side and the shape of his head.
Yes.
It's like, just, no.
Well, doesn't it look like if it was animated, his mouth was about to go around the little ball gag? I can see the animation of it putting the ball gag on.
It's just, there's no excuse for that level of tangentry in such a low line count image. That's not like you're doing lots of scratchy stuff and you don't spot the rendering.
No.
You don't spot the tangent because it's so heavily rendered. It's like, behave, pull that back. Also, just do something a little less goddamn soulless.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the problem I've got with Craig, is that everything about it is just so by the numbers and created by committee. The picture, the now recording voice. I mean, why isn't it somebody doing an impression of Morgan Freeman? Morgan Freeman saying now recording would have been so much nicer.
And for anyone who doesn't know, just by the way, just 'cause I always like to be new listener friendly, we're recording via Discord, and the thing that pops up is a little brown-faced bear with a little microphone in front of his face. Just a rotten image, and whoever did it, do better. Whoever approved it, do a lot better. And if anyone made any money off of it, give it to charity. You don't deserve any of it.
Agreed.
But I digress.
Oh dear. Yes, anyhow, so everyone that listens to the show is now called a whammer, and I hope that the whammers all gather together around the fireside to listen to us talk about the next issue of Warhammer Monthly. Would you classify yourself the original whammer there, Mr. Turnbull?
Well, no, I think you have to get that, because obviously this was your idea, so technically you're El Presidente. And Calvin and Hobbes reference, so I would then be First Tiger.
I am changing your role on Discord now to First Tiger. OG Whammer and First Tiger. I'm in.
Yeah. So that's Calvin and Hobbes, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic strip of all time. Your mileage may vary, but it's brilliant. If you haven't read it, you should. Why haven't you done it already? Go and do it now.
One of the things I've been doing with my son is we've been going through the big collected editions of Calvin and Hobbes that I've had for years and years and years, and he loves them.
It's just, the cartooning is just amazing, and just,
Well,
Well, he basically stopped at his peak, so it's kind of been in reprint cycle since, but yeah, I would say probably tail end of, I'd say maybe 35, about 40 probably, because it was late. I want to say after 86. I can't remember exactly. I'm doing it there, but it was just I discovered it in my teens, and it was just this is the best.
In that newspaper, we got.
I don't mind Garfield. Again, everyone did because it was so easy to get. I didn't get Calvin Hobbes in newspapers very often. However, if I was visiting my gran on my mother's side, they got a hateful Tory rag, the Daily Express, which had Calvin and Hobbes in it.
Yes.
I'm assuming because the hateful Tory rag had the money to get the rights for that. Mother. But anyway, I picked up the books and just it's. But I digress. But it's cartooning at its finest. It's well worth your time. Not like anything you'll ever see in Warhammer Monthly.
No. Although, how good would it have been to have like a little 3-page strip at the bottom of one of the pages of just like, I don't know, a pair of nurglings going around their daily business.
I would personally have liked that, because my platonic ideal of kids comics is obviously the kids comics I read primarily, which, newsflash, that's what it's like for everybody, so it's not that they're better or worse than yours. But I grew up with the Marvel UK stuff being kind of like having their stranglehold on me. And even like the IPC Fleet, we would have like a cartoony version of something. But we had the Transformers, we were spoiled for choice because we had a number of different ones to start with. Then it kind of winnowed out, and you had Lou Stringer basically doing combat, first Robo-Capers and then Combat Colin.
Yes.
God tier cartoonist, great comic historian, well worth picking up his stuff. And Combat Colin was the one that had legs and had the career. Personally, I always preferred Robo-Capers.
Robo-Capers was good.
I had great delight in pulling rank on one of the early TF Nations and getting Lou as a guest. We're getting Lou because I quite like someone a bit left field from the back in the comic, but just going to be one of the. And it was a pleasure to have a King No Nose from him.
Oh, nice.
I was like, Lou, I'd like a king, no nose, please.
It was there. But anyhow, whatever.
It's the spiritual successor to Marvel UK's Transformers.
Absolutely, yes.
2 books, I would say, for anyone who's interested, is these are probably the 2 figureheads in terms of it's a licensed book that built such an expansive world beyond the confines of what that license was.
Yes.
Purposefully, specifically the UK material more for Transformers than US, because Bob had different constraints with the Marvel US offices. But
yeah,
what you had is a book that purposely did not write down to its readers and tried to be as expansive as possible and open this universe up.
Yeah.
And bring your readers along for a ride. Continued again, and then when Simon got the US thing, took that to the latter era of the US book. And the same with Sonic. While it wasn't my jam, because I was a Mario guy, so Sonic was, it's all right. Sorry, Mario got his hooks in first, I'm afraid. And even then, to be fair, I'm an 8/16 Commodore boy for life. So
if it's
Zool or it's Cannon Fodder or Turrican.
Yes.
But these were 2 books that purposely did not talk down to the readers and were expansive. And Lou, as I say, was, if you just read his Marvel stuff, the stuff from Marvel K, it's a humor and gag cartoonist. He was, and it's like, but so much more, and got to basically, along with the likes of Nigel Kitching and Richard Elson, and
Nigel Dobbin,
the late Nigel Dobbin, loved his Strontium Dog.
Yes.
Almost like Strontium Dog for me as in comics. I'll find a way to bring it back. Yeah, but they basically, as I say, expanded that Sonic thing from the kind of rather rigid set it was, and got free reign to do it as well, which is the other thing.
Yeah.
It's very noticeable now in the sort of the modern marketing-led, brand synergistic corporate monolith that things get micromanaged to a point where you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's quite telling that both these books kind of just went, unless there was like a tie-in for it, like Marvel would do it, and even when they weren't being forced to, Simon was always conscious of, if there are toys on the shelves, I'll kind of try and tie it in, because I get new readers that way. That's just common sense.
Yeah.
The same with the Sonic book. They would kind of tie into what was promotionally being pushed at the time.
Yeah,
but aside from that, it seemed that Sega and, I say, Hasbro were very much like, provided it's still kind of family-friendly-ish, fill your bits.
Absolutely. What Lou Stringer managed to do in Sonic the Comic, especially if you go back and read it now, it is so on point too. It's a lot of conversations that can come out of the Lou Stringer scripts, which are, okay, did you see things coming?
But we digress. But I say humour strips were generally quite a fixture of UK comics for a while. Even the more serious ones, and kind of a callback to kind of what most UK comics were, which were taken from comic strips rather than just kind of like a nod to the roots. Would Warhammer Monthly have benefited from that? Well, there's plenty of space in page 2 that we could have easily. This is a theme, so 100% I'd welcome something in there. However, before we get to page 2, and we'll bring up this again, and we'll try not to bitch about the thing we say we try not to bitch about. Let's actually talk about the cover, which for the first of all of the issues there, everything works.
Yeah, it's taken 6 issues, but they've managed to get it. And
let's be clear, we've made a point of none of the art on the covers has been bad. It's just not worked as a cover for us in the way that we come from it, which is, I want an eye-catching cover that's going to encourage me to pick up the book.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the design elements on it need to work in concert with it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner, finally.
It's a stunning one, isn't it? It's I say stunning compared to what we've had before. What we've got here is a really solid piece of art where Kal Jericho is pointing his gun out. It's got a nice little bit of force perspective. The background for the picture makes everything in the foreground pop. You've got Kal Jericho in great big letters.
Yes, it's finally all the elements work. I have a nice eye-catching cover of who's this guy. I mean, he does have kind of douchebag hairdo, let's not lie.
Well, what he has is coal chamber hairdo.
Like I said, douchebag.
He's loco.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he drives a big truck.
Well, just what a rotten band. Honestly, even back then.
You're not a fan of the spooky core there, Andy?
I don't mind some of it, but it was just, say, that was the late 90s was the peak of my kind of metal phase. I like metal before and I like metal after, but that's pretty much where I got obsessively into it for a while. But I mean, goddamn, they were in every issue of Kerrang, and they'd nothing to say, nothing to do. It's like, gee, they were just rotten. I honestly think it was just they got as much coverage in it because they just had a cute female bassist, and they thought that'll get the teenage boys buying copies of Kerrang.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
At that point, I was in my late teens and 20s, so I was probably too old for Kerrang at that point anyway. But still.
I mean, they had Raina as the first bassist, and then she went off because she had a child, and then they had Nadja, who took over, and Nadja, who looked incredibly like a WWE wrestler.
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, we digress. So yeah, it's a great. Maybe. I look forward to that. But yeah, it's a striking design. You've got Jericho in nice green overcoat, bits of chains. He's got the pistol, got the handle of a blade behind him. So you're setting up. Okay, he's kind of your swarthy, swashbucklery type piratey thing. Your Han Solo / Nikolai Dante, if you're familiar with 2000 of the time.
Yes, I mean there's very much a strong streak of Nikolai Dante in Kal Jericho.
But again, Dante is very much the Han Solo type thing. It's just the charming rogue with some rough edges who may go too far a little bit. You've got that, so you're like, okay, but it's a really eye-catching cover, pops off the shelf. So it's doing exactly what you want in terms of it, which is, that's a striking cover, I'm going to look at it and find out. Tagline's nothing great, he's bad and he's back. Doing it, the whole point about this is you don't want to do huge amounts of copy on that, and as we say, they've kind of unified and condensed it. It's the same fonts. So you've got your title logo, and you've then got two other fonts, one for the copy and one for the titles of the rest of the strips. That's it. Nice and cohesive, collected. It's out of the way, so it's not going to be, when the book's on the shelf, you're not going to see the copy. You're then going to pick it up because you like the image. That's in it. That's fine. So we go from that soaring high that we both love, and we come down to earth with a massive bump because, and we'll not belabor the point, but for anyone who's new, we do not like the page 2 because the white box out has a narrative two-hander between some kind of Chaos Space Marine and Imperial Space Marine, which doesn't do the job it should do of like a fictional editor, which is to sell the book, make me interested in what's going in.
Yeah.
Space.
Well, it's a weird one for this one, because they spend more time trying to give these two characters. They've used the space in order to make a little narrative between the pair of them. And because there's not much space to do it, it fails massively. It doesn't introduce the story, and it doesn't give these two characters. It's just nothing.
It's not even fluff. It's a waste.
Yeah,
and
it is.
The sidebar, which tells you your contents, which is fine because it gives you a little bit of a heads up on what it is. It uses little images which are too small, and because the artwork is black and white, they don't pop. It's different if you were doing like a full colour strip. You'd have the colour help you read, be able to parse what's going on. It will help you because you can go to the right-hand side and then say, oh, I'm assuming they mean Darkblade.
Mm-hmm.
Again, readability is key. That is not.
No, it's annoying because it's a really nice picture, but the way that they don't have the space to use the really nice picture means that...
Well, they do have the space.
Yes.
They can write the text of Darkblade a lot smaller, and there you go. It's always been a big thing. Specifically, comics will do it for comic covers, and magazines will do it a lot, very often as well.
Yes,
but there are ways to do it where you're obscuring little bits, but readability is still there. But again, it's white text on a grey gradient background. Light grey logo with black with white to some white black text with a white outline around it. Readability. Just it's like they must have known that it's like we're gonna get bored bitching about the two wastes of space in the white box out and give something else for us to moan about for a couple of months.
Andy Jones saw the future. Like, I'm going to make these two people very annoyed.
Yes. So
yeah, but we're not going to get into that page though, because it is a waste of space. It's always a waste of space. It has been a waste of space for the last 6 issues, and I think it continues to be a waste of space for a little while yet to come.
Yes, so again, just to go as the only useful thing the inside cover will do was let you know that the lovely cover, which we both enjoyed, was by Kal Jericho co-creator Kal Kapinski.
Yeah, and I'm always happy to see Kal's work. Kal Kapinski is an amazing artist. I've never seen anything by him that I haven't really liked, to be honest with you.
So we'll go for the rundown of the book and for long time listeners, they will know that we speak about how Warhammer Fantasy is very much done a disservice by this comic so far. Just spoilers for those this is their first episode, and if it is strange, we've got like several at the back of it. Go listen to them first and come back.
Go start at the beginning.
Don't. I won't actually know. But so we've kind of said Warhammer is very much not getting its fair dues for various reasons in this, which we'll come to when we discuss the sole Warhammer Fantasy strip in this issue. That's right. We've got 5 stories, 4 of which are set in and around the world of Warhammer 40,000. Obviously, it's based on the then epic 40,000 Space Marine, technically, if you want.
Yeah.
Game system that went through, which involved big giant robots shooting things and lots of tiny little men running around at the back of them.
Getting squished.
We have Daemonifuge, which is centered around the Sisters of Battle. Nice to get some female representation in the sausage fest that is the world of Warhammer. Which it's good to know that I was dipping in and out of White Dwarf at the time. I wasn't as regular a reader, so when the Sisters of Battle came out, I just kind of went, cool, nuns with guns, metal. I'm on board. I can only imagine that the readership at the time was very much split between the people who realise, oh, it's something new, this is cool, and the ones that bitch about female space marines. You know the ones.
Yes, the firm belief of everybody in the Fluff and Hammer. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but everyone I've spoken to as we've done these things has got the same kind of idea, which is it's your army, do what you want with it. The only questions I'm ever going to have is, oh, how did you do that? And what's the background that you made?
Fill your books. It's a ridiculous setting, and it's fun, and guess what? Speaking as someone who runs a Transformers convention, which has seen having been involved in a previous convention always, and seeing the demographic change wildly from basically, which is a room full of people that look like me, to a much nicer smelling room, because it's not a room full of people who look like me. And anyone should feel that you should be part of this and get involved in it. And again, it's one of these things that representation is important. If you don't see yourself in it, or someone who looks like you or looks like kind of like you, that's a barrier to that. So yeah, just get in. So it's nice to see that they kind of go in hard with the Sisters of Battle quite early on. The counter to that, which I will say, is you can easily see why they would do that anyway, because the bad girl in comics thing, although it's kind of dying a death at this point and doesn't have quite a sway, it still is a thing from your Vampirella to Lady Death onwards and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary. Not all Vampirella stories are awful. A lot are. Not all Lady Death stories are awful. Most of them are.
Are you including the early 2000s manga remake of Vampirella into Vampy?
I remember getting a wizard with that. So, but again, the whole point is, and again, with something like Warhammer 40,000, it's such a diverse stage setting. You should have the freedom to go off and focus a little bit on some of the areas and expand that universe, because as we've said, they don't really lean to. They do the lore a better service than the Warhammer 40,000 stories. You generally, as I say, you've seen a couple of prominent characters in stories or mentioned, and then move on. We're done.
Yeah, what I keep seeing is that Titan, I think, is probably the best one for not doing this. But all the stories so far have been a very surface level view. Now, Daemonifuge, I think, gets a bit deeper than that, thankfully. But so far, in 6 issues, you're not getting a huge deep dive into what it is to be AdMech, what it is to be a Space Marine, what it is to be, whatever in 40k. Even Bloodquest, which at this point is the longest running strip, it doesn't really get into what it is to be a Space Marine, because it's a pulp story where they're doing fetch quests each issue. So there isn't really the time or the space to do it, unfortunately. I think that's probably why I had so many issues with Bloodquest when it started, that it did feel very flat because of that. But then again, Space Marines at this point in time, they're very much of a muchness. You don't get a huge amount of characterization from them. It takes another 10 years before Space Marines really get any kind of character in of themselves.
Yeah, again, as for the game system, for anyone who's listening to this that hasn't really played the games, it's just, here's your troops, and you'll get some named characters who will just have a profile and a couple of gimmicks that go along with it, because this is still 2nd edition. 3rd is just about to hit, so 2nd edition is still best, though, because it's the one I played. again, that's kind of the thing. Again, let's preface all of this. All of our opinions are based on when did we first encounter it? What did we enjoy? It's not that what we say is objectively right or wrong, and I'd like to make that clear. Although I will sound like that because I think it's funny and I know it will wind people up. It's not. It's very much when I was attached to it. Let's say my Warhammer Fantasy army is probably technically one of the worst armies to have in terms of on the table, which was Chaos Dwarfs, because they had next to nothing.
They did. Yep.
They're my boys.
Yep. I mean, I have been slowly but surely building up a Chaos Dwarf army over the last couple of years. I'm going to have one. I'm going to have a full metal Chaos Dwarf army before I turn 50.
So, again, we say we've got, as I said, Bloodquest, which is the Space Marine-centric one. Darkblade, as we've mentioned, the one surviving Warhammer Fantasy story. And then we have, let's say, our cover star is back. Now,
yes.
Now, the lineup is just basically like your contents without telling you the pages. But if I've got a cover story telling me someone's cool and who's back again, this is what we tie into this second page. Is like, he should be the more prominent one. They should be telling me why I care about it.
Yes.
If I'm a new reader and I like the look of that cover, in that page, because Kal Jericho's story is not the first lead up, you should be telling me where he is and what page I should go to first to read his story. Because that way, if I like that cover story, I then like that one, I'm going to be in a good position, so when I go and start reading the rest of it, if I'm coming in dry or cold, I'm going to be favourably disposed to the rest of the material, which will help you if some of it's on a borderline or maybe not easy for me to connect with.
Yeah.
Just simple mechanics of how to do this. So, again, God damn this page! It should be better.
It's infuriating, isn't it? Because we're starting to see these improvements take place in the comic, where it is slowly but surely getting to its stride. It's starting to understand what it wants to do. It's getting a bit more of a focus. And this first page keeps letting it down constantly because it's nothing. It's an absolute waste of space.
And as we said on previous episodes, the way it works is because these books need to be produced so far in advance, materials will be commissioned months down the line, so you're already tied into this. But what you have is, after about 3 issues, potentially 4 depending on it, that is the first time you will start getting feedback from your readers who actually physically have the books in hand. So this is where you can see the course, where you have the ability to course correct. But again, because things are sent to print in advance, this is going to come over the next couple of issues. We should start to see more substantial stuff. And again, with Darkblade concluding next month, that means, now I know we've kind of talked about this, we're not rereading the whole book. We're trying to read this the couple of nights before just to stay fresh. I know Darkblade comes back. So what you will then have, you've got the gap between Book 1 and Book 2, so they can look at what's went well, what's done, and hopefully remodel that. The same will hold true of Bloodquest, because we know it's a long run, and the same will be true of Titan as well. You have that, and then you're hoping to see whatever new strips come in. Some of them hopefully have the benefit of, we've had some feedback already, let's tweak. Whether that will be for good or for ill, we will find out as we go. But we've given this page, as we see every episode, far too much of our time than we really should. But probably good we get the anger out now, so we can be more reasonably critical and reasoned in our arguments when we do have something perhaps a little bit negative to say about the other strips. And as I said, particularly last issue, we try not to be overwhelmingly negative. If I'm criticising something, it's because I think it could and should be better. It's not to say I just don't like it. If I don't like it, I'll tell you I don't like it, but I'm going to try not to just be negative about it for the sake of it.
No, absolutely not.
There's enough podcasts and YouTube channels out there. If you want that, go and fill your boots. That's not what we're here for. We're hoping that you're interested in our chat about this and want to check out the comic if you've not checked out before, or share your thoughts.
It's confusing why.
And we'll also say, hindsight's 2020, and it's very easy to criticise when you don't have a dog in the hunt in terms of that book has to hit deadlines to go to print.
True.
So if you're doing lots and lots of other things, you might not have time to give that page the love it needs. So let's be clear. There's a big thing in comics, and you will see in particularly, is how much editing gets done in terms of, is stuff being rewritten? Are the editors having a heavy hand or a light touch? We don't know. So you could potentially find yourself is that the editors are doing more to the script that we see in the printed page than actually has came in. We don't know. We could speculate, but you might find that a lot of the time it being done on that. You might find that because they're all Games Workshop staff, this is one of their jobs. They may have like 5 other jobs to do, and they do not have the time to do this. Because
very true.
This is the nascent black, very embryonic black library, so it's not the publishing behemoth it is now in terms of books coming out the wazoo. So again, you might find that there is not the time given to it to do, in which case that's fine. So again, these are all things. So as I said, we sit here making a lot of assumptions without 100% possession of the facts.
No.
So the criticism, so you may find these are thoughts that are echoed by the people behind the scenes at the time, but they just do not physically have the time to do it because there are other things that need to be done. And this is the kind of, yeah, you can do this, but you're only getting X amount of time because this is more important.
No, absolutely.
A whole host of things behind the scenes that we may never know or have sight of that could have an impact on this.
I'm trying.
And again, none of this criticism is coming from it. I just want to have a dig at you because of it's a case of it's more just I can see what's here. I can see that there's potential, and I would like it to be the best it could be. And again, as we say, the book got 80 odd issues.
Mm-hmm. It did well.
Success. And so let's be clear. So we're digging this out, and part of that is knowing that in comics, a lot of times, specifically in the modern times, is if you get past 6 issues, you're doing a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you got to think as well, we've spoken before about how the British comic industry at this point in time has a stake through its heart. It is dead. And the fact that this managed to get out onto the shelves every month for 87 issues is insane.
Yep.
Yeah. Some congratulations do need to be passed over there because that's brilliant.
It is still an achievement when you've got effectively in terms of you have 2 competitors at this point in terms of where this book is squarely being aimed at. And they are 2000 AD and Judge Dredd the magazine. That's your lot, kids.
Yeah. Which, when you think about that's what you're going up against, that's insanity, isn't it?
Yes.
But that probably explains why it's such a smaller size of, it's... Because, memory serves me right, it wasn't actually an American-sized comic, was it? It was slightly smaller than that.
No, it's full American size or based on it. So yeah, you have the typical American size book. You can sometimes have slight variations depending on what printing house has done, but no, it's a US book. By this point, most mainstream US comics are on glossy paper and in full colour. This has a nice glossy cover, but it's got a more newsprinty paper stock and is obviously in glorious monochrome, which, as said previously, is cheaper to print.
Especially in 1998, by a huge margin. The difference between printing a colour and printing a black and white book is insane.
It is also cheaper to produce because you do not need either fully painted art or need to pay someone to do colours. Although, as we've seen, a lot of the artists are choosing to effectively paint in ink washes and grayscale. So you do still have a painterly looking book, even if it is in monochrome.
Shall we get into Titan then?
So we'll go into the Parliament of Minds.
So, for this issue, Hecate... I keep wanting to call him Hecate. It's not his name. Hecate, or Hecate, is on trial because in the last issue he managed to steal a Titan in a moment of Grand Theft Auto, the likes of which no PlayStation 2 owner has ever seen. He is, of course, placed upon the pillar and made to answer for his crimes, but he does not answer for his crimes. He instead asks for evaluation. It is granted, and various people come forth to talk about how well he has done or how badly he has done, to be only taken out of the fold by the spirit of the original princeps who has come back from the grave to speak to everybody from the mind of the Titan.
So what you effectively have is possibly the world's worst performance review done by Zoom. For poor old Hecate. We are about to tell you whether you're getting to keep your job or not. Now, the implication is he's like, and then the outright status is you're dead.
Yes, yeah, you don't get fired, you get shot.
So in the last issue we talked about, so where he's here is the orcs do a sneak attack. They don't have anyone ready. He's close enough to the Titan. He gets on board, hooks up, gets the crew, and saves the day.
Yes.
I'm assuming other bits of the Imperial forces help, but he initially turns the route which allows it to continue. But he disobeyed an order because at that point he'd been told you're not allowed in that Titan until we decide whether you're allowed to continue on it because you're only a cadet and that was effectively a battlefield commission. We're no longer in the battlefield now, so we'll decide whether that commission continues.
Mm-hmm.
But what you had is the depot commander seemed at that point quite reasonable in terms of it wasn't being that kind of 80s action movie dick to the lead for the sake of being a dick. He was just like, no, there is an order, there is a chain of command, we're at war, this has to be done. And Hecate goes along willingly. There's no histrionic fight back. He's like, no, I'll take my chances.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get, as part of that, at the Zoom conference, you've got a couple of princeps going, no, kill him. He's a ball bag. Get rid of him. But you then cut back to, and you then have a couple of princeps going at this thing saying, no, his command was there. He did it to save the depot. He did it. He acted with honour because he's basically trying to save as many lives as possible and stop the orcs.
Mm-hmm.
But you then have the depot go, he goes full Cartman, if we're being honest.
Authority must be respected.
It's like, respect my authority. It's like, authority must be respected. Orders are sacrosanct. Hecate disobeyed. Better that is the panel. And it's all in bold, so he's basically shouting. He looks angry. He's banging his fist on the edge of the podium lectern. And the riposte from Hecate is like, better than this depot and every imperial life in it had fallen than I had disobeyed your order. And then he goes, as the Emperor is my judge, yes. So he's rigidly adhering to the chain of command, which is fine. And there is all the dialogue could have been kept as is, and if he'd just spoken that as calmly and as reasonably as possible, I feel it would be so much better.
Yeah, I agree.
You also get the fact that when he tells him, as the Emperor is my judge, yes, there's hesitation.
Yeah.
He's like, so you've got the, and I was like, well, actually, is that hesitation to go to suggest, actually, I don't entirely agree with it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that undermines kind of the reading I took from it. And again, this is my reading of it, but I feel it would have been better if you just went, no. And also playing into the dispassionate coldness of the Imperial Army in the 41st millennium anyway, which is basically meant to be, it's like, you're just a cog in the machine, packed and dry.
So I'm wondering if the script didn't have him shouting, but because the art came back with him shouting, they had to put it in bold.
I'd imagine, based on what it is, he's probably been told, no, it's like he's banging the lectern, and he's shouting. Like I say, we'll never know unless we tell Dan Abnett to give us a copy of his script, if he even has one now.
Yeah, true.
Given the length of time it's there. And if he doesn't go, that was 20 odd years ago, get over it. Let's be clear.
That if you're a dick in front of the troops, chances are you might accidentally find yourself in some friendly fire. And because he's now in this position of being hidden away and further up in that position of power, it's given him more reign to be an arse. I don't know. Possibly,
but it's just one of these things that it's like, it makes it, I think it would have made it more chilling if the histrionics weren't there. If it's just cold, dispassionate, matter of fact, because it doesn't give you anything to rail against. And also, as he said, he's not disagreeing. He's already basically said he's not pleading, because he's already said I disobeyed the orders. So that bit isn't in question. What he's basically saying is he worthy of doing it now? The implication, and say, is you kind of knew based on where it was, is there's arguments for and against, but the chain of command was always going to win.
Yeah, because you cannot beat the Imperium as such.
But then you have, as I say, the ghost of Maccabee comes out from the Matrix. Doctor Who's Matrix, not the Wachowskis. And he proceeds to basically say, I'm going to speak, they're already bonded, kill him, the Titan's dead. And as we know, and for those as we know who are versed in the lore, and for anyone who's not as lore knowledgeable as us, the Imperium Man is slowly dying, and all of the secrets of its technology are being lost because they just don't understand it. And with each generation, they understand less and less and less and less.
Mm-hmm.
So
things like you don't make new Titans, unfortunately.
You repair and salvage, and from
what? Maccabee, from the depths of Decato's mind core, where my sentience lingers as a Titan, I would speak.
Oh no, while I love Street Fighter, the animated movie, no, the silky, rich tones of Raul Julia, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm in.
But it is very much just kind of you have it's coming in with I'm about to lay some truth on you, and none of you have anything to say against me. It very much reads like any time in, again, to go back to 2000 AD, is any time there's a senior judge trying to tell Dredd what to do, and he's like, basically, who the fuck are you to tell me? Who have you earned the right? Here's the list of times I've saved Megacity 1 / the world from death. And you, what exactly? shut up, sit down.
The thing about Maccabee that I really enjoy is that he shows up on the screen, so he's projecting himself from the Titan's core, right? Which means he has control over how he looks on screen. And he's turned up underlit, looking like a proper wraith. And I am convinced that's on purpose to scare the shit out of people.
So again, at that point, we then have as the Titan's spoken, the court goes, actually, we don't think we should be pursuing further, and we'll give him a formal reprimand. Basically, everyone in the court has just shat themselves.
This ghost just appears. This is like watching an episode of Magnum PI with a zombie in it. It's brilliant. I love the idea of a ghost turning up in a courtroom drama.
He basically just went, right, you can't say shit. My boy's fine. My Titan's fine. Let's have none of this. Hecate basically doesn't do the whole, there's no gloating or massive dick swinging. He's basically just saying, thank you, your judgment will be proven wise. And then he just goes, we're Titans, shakers of worlds. Then you've got him doing his inner monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically saying, no, I am one with the Titan. And then you get your big splash page at the end of the Titan blowing stuff up as you see orcs in the distance.
There's a lot of dialogue here, which it is the perfect amount of overblown.
Yeah.
We are Titans, shakers of worlds, and where we step, the earth shudders. Where we rage, cities die. I am Imperius Dictato. Let my enemies fear me. Let their deaths be deaths of fire at my steel hands. And by the gods of Mars, let me serve the Emperor as a Titan until the end of my days. I mean, that's good stuff.
Aye.
Oh, I do want to go back a little bit, though, because the different people that turn up on the screens.
Are you about to say Wolverine and Nick Fury?
I was about to say Wolverine and Nick Fury.
Yes.
We're on the same page here, man.
Oh, 100%.
Although,
Yeah.
looking at it now, it might be Sebastian Shaw.
No, because he had his sideburns were much tidier. This is clearly Wolverine, who is in this universe is Gortman, Princeps Imperio Furiosa. We don't know if he's got adamantium. That has not been confirmed in the story. He's basically like, disobedience is disobedience. He must pay. That's an end to it. Nick Fury being more pragmatic, being a spy and all that. Apparently he's Craver he's the Princeps of the Indomitus Mechanicus. And he goes, think clearly, Brother Titan, did this man not have the role of Princeps thrust upon him? Is he not little more than a trainee fresh from the collegiate Titanicus? He may learn wisdom from this. Princeps are valuable commodities, do not waste them. And then you have, let's say, the judge in his big, massive Professor Xavier chair on a pole.
I was thinking about Dr. Wily from Mega Man.
Yeah, that too. Basically goes, how did he get to be bonded with the Titan? And the Hecate tells him I was aboard the machine when the Princeps died, and I was the only one to take the link. Who verifies it? And it's Voss that comes on and speaks to his defence.
Yeah, that made me happy.
And just says, decision was joint teeth, it was the only way. Wolverine still wants him burned.
It's a matter of expediency, Bob. Such things are done in war. Honestly, when I saw the Wolverine-looking guy, I was in hysterics for about 20 minutes. Just because it's not that he looks a little bit like Wolverine. You've got the hair and everything. It's so much Wolverine. And Nick Fury, it's insane. Oh, yeah, that tickled me. Tickled me something rotten.
Yeah. So the ending of book one, effectively, Titan, is that's it. He's been rubber stamped as the Titan is yours now.
Yeah.
So we'll see where we go when Titan returns in book two. If I'm being honest, as my criticism of this issue notwithstanding, as a whole, this has moved along at a fair clip, and you probably could have done with maybe one or two more installments, because there's not really been a huge amount of, as we touched on last episode when we talked about that, this was the first real threat to Hecate as such.
Yeah.
Because the whole point about Titan is, once it's blown up type thing, so you can't really go too far with that. You can have it being damaged and what have you, but this is the first kind of bit of jeopardy, and it's kind of over quickly, which kind of...
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I was shocked when I realised this was the end of the first run of stories, that this is the end of the first arc. Because it just feels like it just stops.
It does. It feels very much like we've come to a halt here, because I think very much you have, as we've said, like looking at Titan as a whole, is you can clearly see Voss and one of the other crew members from last issue will be very much pro Hecate, but there's not been enough done to call into question should he still have the Titan.
No.
a little bit of self-doubt, but there's not really been much about the crew doing it now. I get that you didn't have much, so I'm hoping we might see some of that surface in book 2 when it comes.
Right.
I don't remember, but I think that it kind of ties into the other strip that Dan's been doing, which is Vampire Hunter Darkblade, in that we kind of hit on it last issues. The jeopardy's not there. And I think this one, we kind of had a little bit of jeopardy, but it was resolved very, very quickly.
It was. This should have been a lot more tense. I mean, it does a lot of stuff which I really like, and there is a sense of tension to it. But I think this may have been better off being split into two, where this ends with it looks like he's about to get executed. Then McAfee turns up, and McAfee antivirus turns up, and it does something in the next issue. But the way it stands is this was set up to be a really, really good issue. Like a really good. Don't get me wrong. I think it's solid, but because there's not enough pages to really get the tension, you don't feel anything to it, and it just kind of comes to an end, and there we're done, and it's a shame.
It's also, we don't get a lot of Hecate in this in terms of what his like he's doing the stoic reaction and the one that's going to stop him being killed straight away. But what you kind of needed was a bit more of him reacting to what's being said, and also what you kind of have is you're introducing a lot of talking heads.
Yes.
What would be better with that is, okay, we know these guys all control Titans, but are they any good? Mm-hmm. His reactions could sort of editorialize, and again, it's a bit where you like, that's the hero of X amount of blah 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 blah.
Yeah, aye. Godman Princeps Imperius Furioso, confirmed kills 437. Yeah. Yes, something like that would have been.
Yes, the more the reactions of him to Pop, and also what you want to see is at that point, and I would have thought would be, is have some of his crew there and get some of their reactions. Yeah. You get Voss delivers his testimony, but it's very much just like, here are the facts.
Yes, yeah. There's
nothing of that. We are being talked at and talked to, but we're not really getting a sense of what the reactions are. And I think so you say, I think two parts of this, and you get the emotional context from Hecate and other people around. And also, are there any other interpersonal motives? Because if you want to just do talking heads, you want to bring them back, so you can basically have like one of the Princeps going, yeah, I think the chain of command is more important, and also my friend is next in line for a Titan anyway, so...
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's two things here that I feel should have happened that don't. You've got the sequence where Maccabi starts talking and Hecate is just staring up at the screen, but you don't get a sense of wonder or a sense of fear or a sense of amazement. He's just kind of staring at it, like slack-jawed. It doesn't really work. It should. It should be this moment of like, oh my God, my predecessor has basically come back from the dead to talk in my favor. It's a huge moment. It should be everybody else shits their pants, but he just kind of stares at it with country yokel face, and it's a bit of a shame.
Again, is it, again, it's Maccabi from the depths of Dictatio's mind core where my sentience lingers as a phantom I would speak. How much of that is Hecate? How much of that is Maccabi? It's the Titan himself.
Yeah. And
have that conversation again. I'm now one with the Titan, I'm one with this. Is this me talking to me to get me off?
Yeah.
There's something that there's a bit more could be done with the material that we have. And I think that's it. As I said, it's not bad. It just very much feels like, oh, right, we're stopping.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. I actually like this a lot more than you do, I think. But that brick wall ending just stops, and it's a shame. Because, I mean, having something like one of his detractors turn halfway through would have been a major thing, whether it's Wolverine or the depot manager. Yeah, just sort of turning halfway through and going, actually, no. Yeah, as evidence is mounted. But because of the short page, you can't do stuff like that. You don't have the time. You don't have the ability to really make this into something where you can turn the screws. Because we knew he was going to get out of this. We knew he was going to end up getting the Titan again, because otherwise you've got a pointless story. But having an extra, even if they dropped one of the stories from this and had this as a longer end of book story, it would have been enough to really do something with it. And it's a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest, which is a shame because, honestly, right now, Titan is my favourite strip. I love it. So having it just run out of fuel the way it does is really sad.
As we said, doesn't so much end a stop.
It does. It just stops. Even if it said to be continued rather than end of book one, it would have been, it'd have been a very simple change, but it would have given it, it would have felt like there is more to come. It's saying end of book one. You don't know if it's coming back. I mean, we do know it's coming back because it's 30 years after the fact, but reading it there and then and getting the sort of gut emotional response to it that you get from reading it, it does feel like, right, okay, so that was the story. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, no, I think end of book one tells you that it's coming back as well, but it's more just that this gets through to, we need to end at this issue, so he needs to be ready to be in the Titan. So when we can start off book two, we have a blank slate, effectively. And it's like, yeah, you need, as I say, double size installment, or this needs to have another part. It just to make it feel like this is the natural ending for book one, rather than just no, we need to just knock on the head here for a couple of months, guys. We're done.
Yeah, I still say it's solid, but it really needed tweaking. That's my overview of it. It needed more time, more space.
Oh, 100%.
Should we move on to Daemonifuge?
Yes, so again, Daemonifuge by Jim Campbell and Kev Walker, on script, art by Kev Walker, and letters from Fiona Stevenson. I will have a dig at the logo because of the way the logo is, and it's the space background.
Yep.
That should have just been a black box behind the logo and the other contents in white, just so it's readable.
Agreed.
But some minor criticism. So you effectively, we kick off with, they're on an Ecclesiarchy battleship, the Hammer of Thor.
I have questions. I have many, many questions.
Yes. So they're bound for Parnas in the Yarrokin Vale. And again, it's being narrated by Ephraim Stern. She's saying, I was a seraphim again, whole, healed, and returned to a state of grace. I thought uncovering what happened to me 4 years before would be a simple matter. I was so wrong. So she's basically being told, you're on the guy that's running the ship is basically saying, this is the most powerful ship in the fleet. We've heard this before. You can know what's going to happen based on... And she's already calling out, be assured and he's saying, like, be assured the honour of the Adeptus Sororitas is safe within the most impregnable of battleships. And she's like, some place their trust in warships and some in weapons of destruction. But we remember the Divine Emperor. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and victorious.
Imperial Creed. Yes, quite.
I've got plasma batteries. You have homilies. What's going to survive? Newsflash. Homilies. We cut to another area of the ship where a navigator appears to be unwell, and he's saying he's just tired. It's been a long way from Ophelia 7, which is where they just came from. So the guy goes, you just need a sleep, because that's what cures everything, sleep. Away you go. And he just mutters to himself as he goes, I need a damn sleep more than that. And goes into his quarters and just decides to go, Lester, I'm weak. And then you have he's looking at basically a scripture book and some kind of box that's above it, some kind of lectern, and he's getting the words, hurry, be swift, you have need of me. And he presses in the box, and basically the Venom symbiote seems to come out. Yeah. So he's like, thou hast done all I asked. And he goes, please, I can't bear it any longer. The demon, he goes, thy appointed task, is it complete? And he's like, yes, you know I can't refuse you. Then all is well. Feel the embrace of Slanesh. And the fingers are going inside head, through the skin. He's in a demonic embrace. He's happy as Larry.
In a way that reminded me of a cross between Hellraiser and the wonderful film Society.
Yes, and also the way Judge Death, again, coming back to 2018 kids, when you would have Judge Death plough his hands into people's bodies, particularly the Brian Baldwin stuff. And
yeah.
I'm going to assume, given Kev Walker's 2008 pedigree, that is no accident. That is quite clearly a influence on the sleeve moment there.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful, horrible little scene, isn't it? Just ugh.
Yeah. So you then have the Abyss and the Inquisitor Hand, and she's already saying, look, 4 years ago, whatever happened there is going to be gone. And the Inquisitor's like, us going back to this world was implicit in her reinstatement. We want answers.
Mm-hmm. A lost number of Sororitas. No numbers, no name or nature, hardly the clarity of information required for a quest.
And then he's basically saying, he then gets a super migraine with the words, chaos, it claws at me. And she's like, from the planet. And before he can do anything, he's got a sending from the world Ophelia 7, which they just left. It's a memo from his wee trolly twat partner from the first one saying, that there's a would-be assassin, and there's someone on board that's tainted, a navigator named the Navigator, but considered a threat of the highest order. The main woman just goes, "That can't be. You sifted all minds aboard for signs of chaos before we departed." And he's like, "Damn me for a fool."
Yeah, because he didn't do the navigators.
He did all the mines, he just didn't do the box.
Yes, the navigator's box was snuck on board without any problems. Damn me for a fool.
And the captain basically is just speaking up for his man, going, "There's checks and measures to prevent things like that." And he's like, "Mate, no, the navigator's damnation's beyond question." Then it's like, "But what degrees he tainted the rest of the crew will remain to be seen." The captain then goes, "By the blood of the Emperor," as he sees that the demon Alestor is citing the hell out of the navigator, please. Again, leaning into the Slaanesh sensuality, pleasure, pain thing, which is, we kind of criticised last issue, didn't really feel like a Slaanesh demon.
Yes, this one does.
Yes, we're on point.
It feels like a Geiger creature.
Yeah. Well, again, that's kind of going to assume that the shadow of Geiger's any kind of sensual, creepy, alien-y looking thing, Geiger's going to have some part to play in it, like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, the Inquisitor's like, "Deviants, burn in shame." And the demon's just like, "Fools, oblivion awaits thee. Your tiny lights are as nothing to the shadow." And so they're all staring at it, and you get the narration from Stern saying, "My heart sank as the demon glanced at each of us in turn. I felt its fear." And it exclaims, you live yet." And then they get burned.
Absolutely, they get burned. Horrible little weird sex demon creature society right in front of my Inquisitor. How dare you?
Yep. So at that point, they need to sort of run, and they're like, she's asking why such haste, and he's on, "Chaos snapped at our heel system. We orbit its hellborn spawning place. Our duty lies below." And he's like, "I would not suffer blasphemy to persist a moment longer were it in my power. So the Emperor expects no less of you." So what they do is they launch off of the big ship, the Hammer of Thor, head down to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And as they do, they blow up the ship that they came in.
Yeah, just to make sure that there is no taint surviving.
Yes. As we kind of said, the Inquisition are dicks, and it's kind of a zero tolerance to you looking at me in a funny way. Clearly, you're all gone.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hell of an image, like, isn't the ship exploding? Gorgeous.
Yeah. And you basically have, as they're on their way down, she's basically pointing out that only fate and the will of a madman spared them. So, again, she's of the opinion that the Inquisitor is unhinged.
Yes.
Which is perfectly valid, because, as I've said, is the Inquisition are evil, and generally they are all mad.
Just a bunch of mad dicks. That's all the Inquisition is.
Mad dicks with power, and unless you're another Inquisitor who can accuse them, pretty much get away with anything you want.
Mm-hmm. The sign of the Inquisition will carry you far.
So, as before, loving the art.
Yes.
A little bit of 3D modelling on the ship, which is fine. No issues with that. And I say, as we said, some of the Photoshop tricks, your lens flare over the overlaying it, which felt very, very Babylon 5.
Yeah, I can get that. I can absolutely get that. I felt that the overlays weren't as egregious as we've seen in other issues. They kind of fitted in with the story a lot better. No,
our biggest criticism last issue was the one that kind of the lens flare is the silhouette of Inquisitor jumping off the panel, which drew your eye to the lens flare rather than the silhouette, which kind of defeated the purpose of it. Whereas I think it's much more successful integrating it. It's drawing your eye to bits that you need to without distorting the image balance and pulling you away from what you're looking at.
Absolutely, there's a lot here I like. I only have one real negative, to be honest with you, and that's the note that he gets. Why? How did he get a note? Who knew that? It's not explained other than you've got a guy. Your navigator's turned to chaos. Right? How do you know?
I think the implication you have for that is that I've been investigating while you were away.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I don't mind that, because that's kind of that would feel very exposition heavy. It goes, "Hello, Inquisitor. While you were away, I've done what you said and continue investigating, and I've uncovered this sort of stuff."
Yeah.
It's also kind of the Imperial telegram. So again, characters might be limited. Remember, there are 140 characters for an SMS back then, mate.
Cost you 35p to send. Yeah. I do like secrecy pointless. I mean, it does say interrogations reveal Paramore travels with you, which, okay, it does make sense, but I don't know, it just feels really out. I don't know. It just feels like, oh, and here's the next bit of the plot.
Yeah, I don't mind as such because he feels Chaos is on board doing something right now.
Yeah.
You need that to move you on to let's go and confront it, because otherwise I need to do a ship by ship. I need to sweep the crew. We need to go and set, because otherwise, like, oh, I can detect the signs of chaos by walking towards it, and my headache will grow. It's like, aren't you then tainted by chaos type thing? So you can have to kind of So, and also you're kind of looking at, why wasn't your little toady with you? Makes sense. It's like, and he did kind of say in the previous issue that he's talking about, it's like, there's only one person corrupt by chaos. I don't believe that. So it makes sense. So if you're reading it, if you go back and reread the previous installment, I think it flows a bit better that way. But I can see your point in terms of taking an isolation. But it's glorious, proper sensual, evil, demonic looking Slanesh creature, which Kev Walker has done before, because he did. You have that in the Chronicles Chaos again. Take a drink, take 2 fingers. If Turnbull mentions 2000 AD, you'll go blind. But Kev Walker does it in Chronicles of Chaos, where he does the Night Maras in book 2 of Chronicles Chaos, and has sort of the central evil Gelf demons in Hellbringer book 2.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very much in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and he does an amazing job. I really like the little long panel where it's the demon looking at them at the brightness of their souls.
Yeah.
It's a really nice little... It's a really cool way of changing the viewpoint without losing any of the detail. It's a solid little idea. I like that.
Yeah. And also, you see when he's looking, you see the lights of the souls, but it's not really clear. Looking at the background, is Stern is in shadow.
Yes. It's cool, isn't it? You can kind of just about make her out, but not very well. It's only because in the following panel, when you see Hand shouting, "Now the righteous light of the Divine Emperor," you've got her standing behind him. So that's how you know that she's there, and it's cool. It's very cool.
Well, the thing is, there's 2 sisters behind, so you're not sure where it comes in, because one's in shadow and one's there. So does she still have some light or not? Because she could be the one. She should, in theory, be the one right behind. So she does have it, but you do have one entirely enshrouded in darkness. So is that saying that one of the others in the party is already tainted?
Yep.
Or is it just blocking out just so you have the important characters? We will find out in future installments.
Yeah, well, we won't, because nobody else survives.
Well, the implication is we don't know how many of them are on board.
True, yeah. But my guess is it's only these 2. I don't think anybody else comes down.
Then they could have went away through other life crafts and other things.
True. There's going to be an issue at some point. It's just this one cook that's like, I didn't want this. I just wanted to make fish fingers for people.
Yeah, so we'll find out next issue if any of the rest of the sisters and other crew are spared.
Mm-hmm. I think, a few of them do come down looking at this. I think there's a few people with them, a few of the different sisters. What do you think of Hand in this issue? Because I think a lot of the dialogue he gets, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting into really hammering him home as a character.
Again, it's just, he's full on Rorschach from Watchmen. There is no compromise. There is nothing. It is just, I'm a fixed arrow. This is my belief. You will not convince me. And he's basically still calling out, effectively baiting her when he's talking about, when he orders the burning of them. It's like, I wouldn't suffer a blasphemy to persist a moment longer within my power, just as the Emperor expects no less of you. And it's like, I still don't trust you. You've been reinstated, but I still think that you're riddled with chaos. I just can't prove it.
Yep. I know like is probably the wrong word to have, but I'm enjoying Silas Hand. I'm enjoying him a lot.
He is like all Inquisitors in 40k. They are zealots to an individual. Yeah. They are fervent in their beliefs, proper, absolute frothing at the mouth, looniest of them. Which again, because they're they are the Inquisition. Anything that says Inquisition is generally not good.
No.
It's all going to be full of the most, let's say, crazed, focused zealots are just convinced of the absolute rightness of their position, their mission, and their beliefs. Again, it's why the Inquisition is probably the worst of humanity in the 41st millennium.
God, yeah. Yeah, the very worst of the worst, because the Imperium itself is not a good place, and if you're seeing the Imperium as the good guys, you've got a problem.
Yes, and you should just go the fuck back to 4chan where you came from.
And we all know the Orcs are the good guys in 40k.
There are no good guys in 40.
The Orcs are the good guys. They're just doing what they were made to do. Just going off having a good time. They're very happy about it. Maybe the town.
And you're stretching it. Just basically, there is no goodness. It's my favourite strip so far out of the book. Because one, I'm a sucker for Kev Walker's art, so it's like, I'm going to, again, part of it's always internal bias of I'll be more kindly exposed to certain creators than others just based on, like, I'll give you a fairer crack of the whip. Mm-hmm. But I'm enjoying the movement of it. Let's say, while it's a large cast, you're focusing on one or two characters, which gives it enough room to breathe.
Yeah. It's a funny one where I feel Daemonifuge feels like a comic, and it's something I hadn't really thought about until I came to this issue, where the other ones, they feel like it's a comic based on Warhammer. Daemonifuge feels like a comic.
You also have the thing of Daemonifuge at the moment. Ostensibly, Sister Stern is the lead character, but she is very much operating more similar to Dread, or where the inspiration for this kind of approach on Dread is, which is Will Eisner's The Spirit, in that while they're normally the title character, events happen because of their presence and where they are and around them. They are not always necessarily the focal point. I think we can argue that Inquisitor Hand is more or less the focal point so far, along with the lingering menace of what's Slanesh doing, or what are the Slaaneshi demons doing. Stern herself is not, while she's there, she is not the focus of it. She might be in the forefront of it, but she's not the focus. She comes into the important bits and then fades into the background.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a story set. It's very much taking the Eisner-esque classic sort of on the Spirit and Dread approach, which is, this is a story in their world and they will come into it, and to greater or lesser emphasis at times. So I imagine she will become a bigger part of it as it goes on, but right now it's kind of all Silas, because part of it is there's a mystery behind what she's been doing for the last 4 years, so you're not going to pay that off that quickly.
No.
And if you pay off the mystery too quickly, people lose interest. I'm looking at you, Twin Peaks Season 2. Network should never have made David Lynch point out that Leland killed Laura.
No.
Because you lost focus for a while.
And it takes a long time for Twin Peaks to return to anything after that. No. We're not going to get into Twin Peaks because we'll be here all bloody day. I have thoughts on the various aspects of Twin Peaks. But yeah, Daemonifuge, it stands out. It really does stand out as just being a lot of people who know exactly what they're doing and how to do it.
I think also the fact is that given you're using the backstory of or you're using the Sisters of Battle as that, there's easy to just go with, it's basically a religious order in space. It's a lot of shorthand. You don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
You just chuck in the terminology, a couple of bits of the terminology. It's like, so the ecclesiarchy. It's like, okay, so that's the religious side of the world. Brilliant. You don't have to go into a lot of detail to do it, which probably helps it a lot. I think if you had to go into a lot more detail, you probably slow the story down and you lose people as you drop exposition. So it's able to kind of hit the ground running quicker than some of the other stories have been.
Yeah. I do need to, I'd be very silly to let it pass without further comment. Hammer of Thor.
Yeah.
Just, where's that name come from, eh? In the first millennium.
Well, again, to kind of go, they do kind of play fast and loose with the religious history of humanity in that. And again, something that Abnett touches on in some of the Horus Heresy books when he's dealing with when he talks in and around the Emperor. Emperor's backstory, and you kind of get that. So these ones will come on. And given the unfortunate co-opting of Norse mythology by fascist assholes, it kind of makes sense that that's iconography that lasts to the 41st millennium, given that the Imperium is a fascist wet dream.
Yes, absolutely.
But it is odd, but again, because it's meant to be a ship of a ship sort of tied to the Sisters of Battle and the Ordo Sororitas, the name's incongruous. Like, if that was a Space Marine ship called the Hammer of Thor, fine. But if you're tying it into kind of a more religious, particularly one that's of the female persuasion, are you not looking at, like, Sith, Freya, Frigga? There's enough. I would have, again, I know why you went with Thor, because everyone knows Thor's a Norse god. You perhaps don't want to do it and then have to have your reader go, what's that? And again, Wikipedia wasn't really a thing back then, and, well, internet. Well, you did have more search engines. You probably got more accurate information, but it would have taken you longer because, dial-up. Or the library.
Okay. I think someone actually sat around and fixed this. Something just appeared in my brain there.
Yeah.
So I just went and had a look at it. Sebastian Thor, right? So Sebastian Thor...
Wasn't he in the X-Men?
No, he was in Youngblood. No, Sebastian Thor was one of the High Lords of Terror who was instrumental in creating the... I'm just going through it now. Worked with the Inquisition to end the Assassin Wars of Vindication over the position of... Yeah, so he basically became the head of the Sisters of Battle and set them up.
All right, that's right. That makes sense then. All system retracted. That's brilliant. Apparently, his preserved head is currently in the possession of Triton the Infinite.
I saw that.
Necrons love a trinket.
Yeah, disbanded the Treatise Templar, creating the Sisters of Battle in its place. Right, so somebody must have seen this comic. I fixed that.
The honest answer is, depending on the level of knowledge, that probably sounds like something in the editor would go, I'm just going to rename your ship.
Yeah. I mean, Sebastian Thor is much, much later. He enters the...
But again, because he founded the Sisters of Battle, that's probably I think we're maybe doing the writers a disservice, and they probably were given that material and going, here's the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the story of them. Go, fill your boots.
No, I take it back. This was not created as a fix. Sebastian Thor is mentioned inside the second ed Sisters of Battle Codex.
Which comes out when?
I've got it right. This...
Yep, that's fine. All criticism removed. Well done. 10 on 10, boys.
Yep, that's an amazing... That has made me very, very happy. Oh my god. Salute to Kev Walker.
And also proof that, again, as we said, these are just our opinions. They are neither right nor wrong. However, in this case, we were wrong.
Yep.
In a sense, they've named their biggest battleship of the fleet's named after him.
That's all good. And then the Inquisitor blew it up, the bastard. Should we move into Bloodquest?
So we have this installment charmingly entitled Onslaught. No, I looked and there was no sneak bits of the titular X-Men villain game. Missed opportunity.
Oh, but there's a guy who looks a lot like a very muscular Baron Zemo.
Script by Gordon Rennie, art Colin McNeil, and letters by Tony Luke. So we open with a double-page spread, which is kind of likes again, and I'm sorry, take another two fingers. Gonna mention 2000 AD, back in the day when it was partially colour, partially black and white, and it was old school printing. So you had the Dread stories would often be in the middle, and it would be on a coloured double-page spread, and then the rest would be black and white. So you're just getting a good battle scene of it's an Imperial world that is under siege by orcs, and you're seeing lots of little gun emplacements. They're shooting, but the orcs are just... There's plenty of dead orcs, but they keep coming, and you can see some orc gargants in the background that just... And I love how ridiculous it looks.
They're so adorable. I want a plushie. I want a plushie of that gargant.
It's great. It's like, here's the comically looking death machine.
It's like a Mr. Potato Head came to life and chose chaos. It's amazing.
But yeah, you've got the Imperials are being cut off, and you've got basically snapshots of military, lots of radio points, basically saying the orcs are going through, we're all screwed, we're going to die. And we get narration telling us that the Lost Sword of Belarius, the Blood Angel's quest, the Lost Sword of Belarius, the Blood Angel's quest brings him to the Imperial world of Leptis, the latest planet to fall victim to the devastating power of the orc warlord Garshal the Destroyer.
Flashback.
Yeah. So you see the bits earlier, which is it's the same story, and you get some narration from, I'm assuming, and we'll confirm in the next one, some Imperial officials. It's the same story all over the planet. We're attacked by orc raiders before, but it's different. Crippled orbital defences, now they're annihilating us on the ground. This isn't any mere plunder raid, this is systematic planetary assault. Total war on every front. So not very orc-like.
No.
That. So you're getting because as Adam said previously, and for those that aren't aware of the orcs in Warhammer 40k are terrifying, vicious, very hardy, but also at the same time very comical. They are on tour, basically. Like a more amiable soccer hooligan army is probably the closest to this. They are louts. Oafish louts, basically. So they're inherent. It's why they're easily, or not so much easy, but it's why they're easy to beat. They generally aren't organised, they aren't disciplined. They are the ultimate rabble. So, but unlike, say, the Tyranids, which have the hive mind controlling them, orcs have it's all might versus might make right. So it's your strongest warlord wins.
Yeah, and other warlords are always going to have a go at trying to get to be the big boss.
Yeah. So it's all effectively little mad rabble cults that build around these thugs. They go for a while and then disperse. That's the thing is, when we talk about the Great Waz, they always end up being dispersed because the figurehead dies and they lose what little focus they have.
Yeah, the war dissipates as soon as the head of the York army is destroyed. Then they go away, and then another guy comes up, becomes the big boss, the big knob, and then they come back again later on.
But yeah, so you're right away for if you're familiar with it, it makes you're basically saying, yeah, that ain't orcs. And if you're not familiar, Gordon's telling you here, this is not what they normally do. Something's not right. So you go into the Imperial bunker, and you then have a couple of fish going, how long can we hold out? And then obviously you get with the Emperor to guide us, we shall soon turn back the tide of orcish filth. The guy asking the question goes, your piety does you credit, my friend, but Commissar Ulan is not here now, and I need facts, not litanies of faith.
That's good, isn't it?
It is very much a cut the shit, mate. And he's like, at present rate of attrition, our forces will be destroyed within 4 days.
Well, bollocks.
So what? I love commissars because again, everyone loves Commissar Yarrick.
Yes.
But commissars would generally be the ones that would enforce battlefield morale, and if anyone was doing any kind of hints of surrender or weakness or that, commissars generally kill them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the commissar's duty, kadoom.
So you have so the likelihood is this is just almost like a Pavlovian response because he know they're in battle. Oh, how about that? Nah, he's not here, mate. Actually, I need the intel.
Yeah.
Which explains a lot about why a lot of wars in 40k are long and battles of attrition rather than, effective military campaigns. Because you've got arseholes like that going, yeah, we'll win all the time. By the Emperor's spirit.
Yes.
By the Emperor's spirit. I'd like guns. Lots and lots of guns.
Whoa.
The shadows of World War I do loom large in a lot of Warhammer 40,000 campaigns. What I mean by
absolutely.
that, the mindset of the leaders and command structure in terms of how they actually view the troops and the assets. So that kind of informs a lot of that. And again, you see in that sort of Napoleonic era outfits are basically the order of the day. All big great coats and uniforms and medals was out the wazoo. And so you have the guy going, all right, that's great. And for our reinforcements are weeks away, even if the astropath communication had been received. So he's lamenting, Emperor's bones, one Imperial Guard regiment. Aye, right. I've seen how they play in the tabletop. This is calling PS on that right now. Unless it's an Imperial Guard regiment full of tanks. Because if it's just them with las guns, mate, you'd be better off with a Pisha. Or even just one company of Space Marines and we could still turn the battle against them. At that point, it's like, if only we had one of these. My lord. After's just exited the warp and is hailing us. Its transmission codes identify it as a vessel of the Imperium. Up my channel immediately. So you then have Leonatus on broadcast saying, I'm Captain of the Blood Angels. We're approaching Leptis and require urgent contact with any Imperium authority. So a guy introduced
himself. Really like that. I really like it. Require urgent contact with any Imperium authority because they're so disconnected and cut off from their chapter. They don't have the information to tell them who's in charge. That's such a good bit of writing.
Yeah, it's just like we don't have anything we can't check. And so he introduced himself, I'm the governor of the world, and your arrival comes in time, Space Marine. Our sensors show your vessel to be a scout ship. How soon will the rest of your chapter be here? Oh dear.
The rest of our chapter, you misunderstand the purpose of our mission, Governor. There's only a couple of us, and we're all fucked.
Aye. So Governor Septis is very much being taken on what I can only describe as a roller coaster ride of emotion right now. Jeez. And it's like, and he goes, nope, we're here on a matter of personal honour, and we've been months in the warp following the trail of the destroyer. So there's no 1,000-strong chapter following in our wake. There's only my battle brothers and me. We're the only allies you have. And he's like, 6 Marines against an army of orcs? I've heard tales of your chapter. Is it a glorious battle, death you seek in battle? Then the fortunes of warp have carried you to the right place. And he's like, I assure you, Governor, I have no wish to die this day or any other day. Somewhere, Lieutenant Worf is looking at him going,
fuck, told anyone. But it's like, my disappointment is palatable.
Yeah. It's like, so what orbital defense? So Leonatus is checking, he's like, what orbital defenses do you have left? And he's like, I've got a few batteries, we're holding them in reserve. Do you want covering fire to attempt to evade the orc blockade? He's like, nah, no, you misunderstand. We're not evading the war fleet. We've found the destroyer. We're going to teleport on the main vessel and assault it. and again calls out what we mentioned previously, which is orcs are mindless savages. Kill their warlord and they retreat in disarray.
Mm-hmm.
So he's hammering it home, and as we're talking, we're getting to see a bit of the orc fleet in space. And you get
does it look?
It's just basically big, massive blocks of metal with skull and bones and teeth and bits. It's great. You're only going to get either some ships sort of complete bit in the distance and then a bit more in the foreground, but it is just, big. There's no elegance to these craft, which is exactly what you want with orcs.
Because just giant armored fists.
It's just slabs of metal with guns and sharp bits and spiky bits.
And graffiti on the side. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So he's at that point of, nope, we're going to just teleport on and take these fuckers out. So at that point he basically just barks evasive action, and he's waiting for the covering fire from the planet's surface so they can get to teleport. And you then cut to inside the flagship, and what you see is so we're not going to try and be coy about it. It's quite clearly the silhouette of a Chaos Space Marine.
Yes.
The dialogue will make it very, very implicit soon after. And he's like, this game goes too far. They're almost within teleport range. We should destroy them now while there's still time. And then you get a shadowy figure on the throne with some massive pauldrons and some spikes and some horns going, they are Space Marines. That's why you're afraid. How long has it been? 10,000 years, and you still fear those who were once your brothers? So, and you can see the extreme foreground, you've got the pauldron, which is the normal Space Marine pauldron, but you've got some skulls and the many pointed star of Chaos. You have a Chaos Space Marine who clearly turned traitor during the Horus Heresy. That's the 10,000 years. Horus Heresy was 10,000 years ago, for those that don't know. Shadowy figures just going, let them come, lower the void shields and let them teleport aboard our vessel, or as I like to call it, the Horus play. I've been reading up. It's like, now this didn't turn out exactly all right for Horus, but I think I can do better.
So I thought you were going to call it the Space Crusade plague. This is how every game of Space Crusade started, but no, you're absolutely right.
This is bang on. This is just Horus. It's like, I can beat this. I can do one better than the guy that was given all the powers of the Chaos powers to do with that. And he basically says, at this point, the body I inhabit grows weak and decayed. I need a stronger physical form to contain my power on this plane. You do what you want with the others, but the leader, the one called Leonatus, must not be killed. Let him be brought before us so that he can gaze upon the true face of the destroyer. And you see it's an orc. Very skeletal and desiccated, though, so clearly it's an orc that is being corrupted by chaos and dying slowly, which explains away why this orc warlord is particularly efficient and particularly effective, and also not playing by orc rules. He's not really an orc anymore.
Nope, there's a demon or something in there. God, it's good, isn't it?
We're picking up steam now, because as you've kind of said, and I think you've been much more down on Bloodquest than me, is it's very much been a MacGuffin of the month quest thing, a la, like I say, a Rogue Trooper or similar. Again, back to 2018, take two fingers, guys. Don't put down some paper, so if you spew, you do make a mess. But we're now or Kung Fu, the TV series. If you want, I'm just going to reference touchstones from my youth, okay? So it's Wai Chan Kane and Kung Fu. Yeah, or do that if you want that. If the kids are into that sort of thing, I suppose. But yeah, it very much is a kind of, I'm on the quest, here's my thing. But no, we now have, okay, there's a bit more to it now than just, the orc. So this chaos-spawned orc took this sacred relic. Mm-hmm. So you immediately have, this suggests it wasn't just taken for bragging rights and banter to say, up you. There's a purpose here.
Yeah, there's a larger plan in play.
So this installment kind of, again, opens things up more. We've been quite on a very rigid set of train tracks, if you will, in terms of the direction of the story is. We're now opening up the possibilities as we get to close enough, probably, to the end of the first book.
Yeah, I guess there's only maybe 2 issues, if not the next one, to the last of book 1.
Yeah, so we're getting near the end of the but again, the whole point is we're setting up again, Space Marine quests tend to be more epic things anyway. So when I went in, even without my memory of bits that happen later on, you're not doing a big epic quest and having it end in one book.
No, absolutely.
Which is why I think we'll address that with the next strip, because that also very much is in the same.
Yeah, we'll come to Darkblade. We'll come to Darkblade shortly. Yeah. There's a few things I want to get into here, because one of the things that especially the early issues of Bloodquest that really I didn't enjoy, was just how everything felt very monotone, for want of a better term. They didn't feel like there was a huge amount of energy is the only word I can really use. It felt very flat to me. As this has gone along, the last issue was a load better, and this is superb. I'll put the flag down in the ground and say I apologize for the negative things I have said about Bloodquest in the past, because this one does so much, and everything about it works so well. The art is exemplary. The way the story is told is brilliant. The dialogue is bang on the money. It's also funny to think that there's a lot more dialogue in this one than there has been in past installments. But there's also just little things like the demon is speaking white on black rather than black on white. And it's just these little things that I really like.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've said in a couple of the previous episodes as well is when creatives do an ongoing story, you will tend to find that they will find their feet as they go, as a writer and artist, because it's also a case of writer and artist need to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses and what works best and what works. So you will in the create process there will be more toing and froing and back, and they develop a better understanding of what works and what the other wants. Yeah. And as I said, we're now at the point where this material has been in the hands of readers who will have been able to give feedback as well. Depending on how far along this is, this will already have had that, and you'll have had feedback from your editors as the material is being submitted as well. But this is where it kicks into gear, and you're like, okay, fine. We now have, as I say, the story opens up possibilities, because we've had, and again, the good thing is if you look back is you've had the bits of chaos along the way in little bits, where you've had the encounter with the Daemon of Khorne on that world very quickly. So you've had chaos is there already. You have the encounter with the Space Marine, the Chaos Space Marine on the other installment as well. So you're kind of all of these elements and the orcs have been a threat in the background more or less since the first part, rather than an actual presence. Yeah. So you have this is now the threads are coming together, and you'll see the fact that you've been beset by chaos is probably not an accident, but by design. Yes, but it opens up the story a lot more as well. It retroactively opens up the story, which I think is quite a smart thing to do. Whilst the first half of the book was really much a laser focus on we are just doing this to get to that. This now goes, right, so all of that stuff was on purpose. All those crumbs that you've been following now have a reason, and it's smart. It's real smart writing. Again, you have gorgeous art from Colin McNeil, who, again, as I say, someone whose work I've always enjoyed. You get the massive, lovely backgrounds on the double-page spread, but there's a lot of white there, a lot of negative space. It's open, expansive. It's clearly it looks like a fairly arid world by the looks of it, but you can see it to nightfall as the sun is setting. And again, the sun is setting on this human world. It's not going to rise again, is the implication. Very nicely. It's a good bit of symbolism. You don't have to hammer home and say, and nightfall hits the planet. Will they live to tell another tale? You kind of get the more factual bit in terms of we've got 4 days and we're left, but this is just an emotional and thematic backing up of what's happening, which is, the sun's setting on this world and these humans. They are done as it stands. Yeah. Beautiful bit of work that you wouldn't necessarily automatically associate with, but just hits that home. When you're in the bunker, it's all black. The only bits in the background, backgrounds are there for a little bit of context, but it's black. You're shrouded in, the humans are little pockets of light shrouded in darkness. It's beautiful little bits of, this is where comic storytelling comes in. It's not always about flashy image. It's about setting that mood, doing it through the use of the art itself, in terms of how you're composing your shots, in terms of panel images, and again, the use of black. So it's oppressive, it's dark. Yeah, it's very claustrophobic. And then you get these big space battle moments, and I feel bad about all the bad feelings I've had towards Bloodquest in the past, because this is 10 out of 10. This is amazing. I love it. Told you. So what we have here is, rather than recap stories, what we're going to talk about here is we now have this story's opened up, and we know we've only got 1 or 2 issues to go, potentially. I can't remember off my head. I'm going to not going to check deliberately, because if I check, I'll start to read, and that's cheating. Yep.
Nope, don't want to do that.
We know Darkblade concludes next issue, so Darkblade has 2 installments left.
Yes.
To be clear. So what we're going to see is Darkblade going to do a similar thing in terms of you're going to open up your story or change your focus or give us something ahead of your potentially big conclusion. I hope it's a big conclusion. As I say, not reading this to be negative, but you have a where is this going to take us? So we're in Darkblade part 5. Again, Dan Abnett and Kev Hopgood on art.
Mm-hmm.
And we open with Darkblade and his Cold One walking along a path full of skulls. We get a close-up on Darkblade, and we can see in the side of his face is racked with the taint of chaos. The demon is corrupting it. There's, say, it's not so much sores, just the flesh is warped and distorted.
He's slowly but surely becoming corrupted.
Yeah. So, and again, we get a bit of narration telling us that he's been cursed and he needs to take out 5 relics of unholy power for the filthy demon Sarkin who lives inside his soul. And we're about to hear the tale of the fourth relic. And Darkblade remarks, whoever lives here, demon, has quite an appetite. And demon basically saying, well, let's hope he's sleeping, because somewhere in here lies the lost warp sword of Cain. We're not leaving until you found it. Cain being the elven god of death.
Yep, the bloody-handed god of murder.
Yes, God of Murder, that was it. And not to be confused with popular wrestler. I say popular. He used to be popular, but he's a libertarian douchebag. Or, of course, a failed Spider-Man clone, Kane. Alice Darkblade's face doesn't look a million miles away from what Kane's looks like in Spider-Man.
No, but I will say that Kane's second run as when he got to be the Scarlet Spider is one of my favourite Spider-Man comics. I loved that run. It was great.
I love a lot of the Clone Saga. Just it went on too long, but I digress. The Cold One just goes, "All right, boys, you can." He just seems to hang about in the background. He's done. As Malice Darkblade follows the White Skull Road, Munchkin's not pictured, possibly there. Also, each
Skull Road. Follow the White Skull Road.
And it's also a thing of you're going in the cave. Let's hope it's asleep. So you're going to walk along a path of bones.
Mm-hmm.
Very stealthy walking on bones.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing is going to be quieter than walking along, just crunching, dry, desiccated internal bones.
Lo and behold, what should happen? But he cracks on something, and it rouses the person that was sleeping in there, and
it's a Dragon Ogre. Of all the things I expected, a Dragon Ogre was not one of them.
What I thought they might have done with it, because my first thought was, is it some kind of corrupt? Given that the sword of murder, the king's sword he's an elven god, is it some kind of corrupted dark elf with a cold one? Because although it's a dragon ogre, it looks very much like it's just an ogre with a cold sitting atop a cold one.
Yes, it does. Which, to be fair, the dragon ogres were never a great design.
But to me, it would be kind of a. Would you not have just had some? Again, we have been. Like, it's nice that we're seeing something that's not just an elf, because we have kind of been narrowly focused on it. But if your relic is an elven god of murder's sword, why is the dragon ogre got it? And if he was sleeping, why is he sleeping in full armor?
Yeah. And of course, the fun thing about dragon ogres in the lore is that they are really lethargic and they constantly sleep. So the fact that it was awake after they've talked about how, well, I hope it's sleeping, really infuriates me.
And so he's there, and his the claws of his front legs are slashing in the background. He's got a stomach buckler, which is just like a shield with the 8-pointed star. I say 8-pointed star. I can't count. It's 8-pointed. Sorry,
it is. Yeah,
8-pointed star of chaos on his chest, and he's wielding a sword. And Malice just goes B and then cut off.
I'm really hoping for a full blown bollocks is what he was going for.
Yeah. And then he goes, under circumstances, I'll let you run now. It goes towards him, growling, going, and Darkblade's like, there's nowhere to run. He slashes his sword at the Dragon Ogre's blade. That does not go well for him, for it shatters quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Dragon Ogre's front legs swipe up and just twat him away quite easily. And he goes, curse you, creature. And so he picks up a skull and lobs it at him, and then goes, curse you back to hell, and then starts running towards the cave. And the demon's like, what are you doing? You're running towards the cave? And he's like, we have a job to do, remember? And he's like, it's right behind us. It will trap us in here. And he's like, I need a weapon. You said you're looking for a sword. That will do.
It's still a sword.
Yeah. Then call back to the earlier, shut up, Damon.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Malice, I forbid it. And he's like, then we die here. Choice is yours.
Is that like
the demon stops forbidding him. So Malice picks up the magical sword of Cain and whispers the magic words, "I have the power." Slashes it to death, and you get a very nice painterly effect, mostly white, and it's just electrical discharges. And the Dragon Ogre's dead, and he's like, "Good sword, no longer you wanted it for your collection."
I despair of you, Malice. When the final task is done, there will be such a reckoning.
He's like, "I'm counting on it." And again, just looking off in the distance, his eyes a silhouette, you see the taint of him on, he's holding the sword, little bits of steam still rising up from it.
Mm-hmm.
With the words, "Next, Sarkhan triumphant."
Okay.
Mostly the art. As we said, the earlier sort of murkiness in the first couple of installments that kind of, I think, made the art less effective. Much better balance here. And we kind of have that so that the readability is still there, but still lovingly rendered and very atmospheric.
Yeah, I mean, on the first page, the side shot, the side profile of Malice's face when it's all messed up is really nice. That's such a nice image to stand out. Yeah, outside of that, though, it's nothing.
As we said, that there's no real. We talk about, we know in long running series and comics, it's not true jeopardy, but you should feel that the obstacles that he's going up against represent some element of peril. And again, it's I'm going to take the sword. I don't want you to do it. Then you're going to die. Choice is yours. And
okay.
It's nice that there's silence rather than any kind of grudging acceptance. But I do like that bit. But as he picks up the sword and he does his He-Man pose, and it is a He-Man pose.
Oh, it absolutely is.
100% Castle Grayskull should be behind him, but it's not. It's just a dragon ogre getting ready to kill him.
Silhouette of the dragon ogre, though, it does look amazing.
Yeah, but again, he just sweeps round and basically chops him in half.
Removes the dragon from the ogre.
Yes. It's just, again, there is nothing to Darkblade, but because we're not being introduced to other characters who hang around at all, there is nothing to have the story on.
No.
The demon's not. We kind of talked out, and I know you were more forgiving of it early on, and probably were more positive about the demon having the rapport and being the personality. Now we're just. This feels like such a damp squib to what it potentially could have been. It
does, and I think a big part of that is the demon doesn't have that much personality. He's there, the warp sword of Cain is no pig stick to be used in brawling. But that's good stuff, yeah. But I think the problem is because he's a disembodied voice, he needs to have every time he speaks to be dripping with character. And he's not.
If the demon's possessing him, let's have some psychic interaction or some mental. Again, like the psychic plane in X-Men or what have you, when you ever have Professor X having a telepathic debate with somebody.
Yes.
Something maybe along those lines. Will we maybe get that in the final one when he gets the fifth relic? Because I'm going to assume he gets the fifth relic.
Yes, aye.
Because
he's going to get the fifth relic, and then that's going to unleash the demon, and then there will be a reckoning.
And then book 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one that, we're trying to read this without foreknowledge, but there is some there. So I know there's a book 2, but quite frankly, if this ended with book 1, I would not be clamouring for this to come back.
No, I really wouldn't, because it's nothing. I'll put it this way: if it hadn't been Hopgood on the art, I don't think it would be fondly remembered, because. It really doesn't feel like anybody. It doesn't feel like the script cares about the characters it's writing about.
Yeah,
and
this is again British comics tended to be, particularly as I've touched on, certainly when Adam and I were much younger, when you had things like Eagle, Warlord, Battle, and Action, and the various likes of them, and Warlord is because they were weekly. They had short things. They were very plot heavy rather than characterization.
Yes.
But because you had the 3 pages or 4 pages a week installment, that character built up over time. You didn't have to do it. This is a strip that's getting maybe 6 to 8 pages a month. So that's you kind of have to have plot to keep it moving forward, because the plot, you need to have something to hook me to come back to. But along with that plot, you need a bit of character, because if it is just a MacGuffin of the week, and we're now 4 in, and he's got 4 for 4, he hasn't missed an objective. No. There's not been a failed attempt. I need to try a second time, but it's going to be even more difficult now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of what I'd really be looking for if I'm getting a Quest book.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is it feels like anime light in the way it's been written, because each episode is just going, and I win.
Yeah, and to contrast it with Bloodquest, which we just just talked about there, is the quest is to get that blade back from the Orc Warlord. I suspect, based on next issue, that quest is going to become something entirely different, and that blade is almost incidental.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
You're about to have the rug pulled out from under you. Now, I would like that to be the case the next issue, somehow. But what we're going to happen is, and I think is, he'll get the relic, the demon's going to be free of him, but there's going to be something that means he's going to go after the demon.
Mm-hmm.
And that, or something. So again, I can't remember enough about Darkblade Book 2.
I remember nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Which tells you a lot.
It does. It does.
This is very much a very pretty story, but there's very little story.
It's events. There's no actual story because it's just events that happen one after the other. There's nothing holding it together. There's nothing that makes it feel fluid. It's just nothing.
And also remember, last issue, he killed his dad.
Yeah, you'd think that would have some long-reaching ramifications. Why isn't there an issue of him being hunted down by other Dark Elves for the crime of patricide? I know, granted, Dark Elves probably isn't a thing, but...
Or why isn't the demon taunting him about it?
Yeah,
Look at what I made. You're my puppet.
Yeah, it's not.
There's just... Yeah. We could go on, but we'd just be kicking it. So I think it's just best to say, this is a very lovely looking installment. And again, another bang-up job by Kev Hopgood. I just wish the story he illustrated was better. Yeah.
I just kind of wish the script was tighter, more solid, What it feels like to me is that there isn't a plan for what the end game is. It's just, okay, I'll bang out another script. Okay, I'll bang out another script. And I think that hurts it. It hurts it a lot.
Any type of serial storytelling, if you're doing it, even if you never reach the end, have an end in mind. Because there's two things. One, you might not get to tell all the story you want, so it's always best to have an exit point.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's easier to tell a story if you know where the end point is, because you can work your way back.
Yeah. And I don't think an end point was worked out when this started getting created. Somehow it doesn't feel like there's a... Yeah, I think I'm going to... That's me saying my piece on it now, because, as you say, I don't really just want to be negative for negative's sake, but it feels that this is a disappointment. Coming back to it, Darkblade just felt like a real disappointment. Right.
Without any further ado, let us move on from that and hopefully on to something a bit more positive when we go to round off the issue with the cover star, Kal Jericho in Yolanda.
A script by Gordon Rennie, art by Karl Kapinski. It's a fairly simple story. What we have is a outlaw ganger, a woman who looks like a high hive dweller, is wanted. And Karl, I keep calling him Karl. I need to stop doing that. And Karl decides he's worked out the secret and he's going to go and find her. She does not want to come along at all, though. And much fisticuffs and blowing ups and explosions and begin. However, she's very, very annoying. And he decides that the best thing to do is just to walk away and leave her. Because he's Kal Jericho. Yeah, really simple overview, because the story itself is quite simple, but that's not the important part. The important part is, oh my god, how much character does this strip ooze?
Yeah, so you have, let's say, to boot the thing is, the Outlander and the Outlaw Ganger is the highborn noblewoman who's gone down slumming. So he's basically looking at it going, I have this one person, I can get 2 bounties on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's efficient. He's connected the two together in a way that apparently no one else has, or has cared to.
He gets the second, yeah.
Because you may find it could be a case of that with bounty hunters, which is they will potentially, I can't remember how it works. It's been a while in terms of will they operate in certain circles. So as a case of I'll be going after the rich, so I'll be servicing the scumbags, I'll be servicing these, and how do I get my clients type thing, which I do remember from Jericho, is just that he's like your Han Solo type. He will just take, any job going.
Yes, absolutely. He's also highborn himself, and he came down and slummed it, which is probably why he understands that he can see the similarities between the two.
Yeah, so he along with his hapless sidekick, because you always need a hapless sidekick. Or if you're Han Solo, you have a sidekick who is much more capable than you, and you are actually technically the hapless sidekick. It's just because you speak English, we all understand you.
Although I'd be so much happier if Scabs just spoke in a collection of roars and grunts.
I generally would like to see, if someone has done it, I would like to read it, but I would love to see more Han and Chewie stuff that's told properly, which is Chewbacca's the capable one, and this is his idiot sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have it that you don't understand anything Han says because the story's in Wookiee, but they'll tell it in English for the benefit of those of us who don't speak Wookiee.
Which in 1977 was most of them.
Yeah. But I generally think it's like Han Solo is the idiot.
Yes, yeah. He's the abrasive, unthinking fool that rushes in.
Yeah. So you then have, as say, Kal is there with his pal Scabs, and he basically just goes, he finds them easily enough. Again, it doesn't waste any time in how does he track them down. It doesn't matter. He tracks them down. That's fine. Because it's all about, and he just rocks up, and she's with an outlaw gang of all women.
Mm-hmm. The Wildcats.
Yes, all very Furiosa, Mad Max, Fury Road looking, as you would expect.
Yeah, it's Clan Escher, so they're always going to be the all-female gangers.
And he basically he confronts her with her highborn name, none of this nonsense. And he's just like, offer your choice. I take you in as a wanted outlaw and hand you over to the guild, or give up, come back to your family. So he's basically made the choice at that point of, I can get one of these bounties. I'm going for the more expensive one.
Yes.
And she's basically just going and pulls out a Uzi-looking pistol and goes, "Man scum, I pronounced it right. The Wildcats are now the only family I know, and you're a fool if you think you could take me back." Now, while he's stopping and scraping, he chucks something into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So as they all gang up on him, and it looks like it's about to be curtains for him, and he just goes, well, so much for the amicable approach. Just as well I dropped that frag grenade in your campfire a moment ago, and the heat should detonate any second now.
Kaboom!
Lots of people die, and the mark makes it abundantly clear that at least two of them are toast.
Yes, just gone.
Not more. He does the gentlemanly thing of battering her and then putting her over his shoulder and running away, while the remainder gangers shoot at him.
Oh man, it's so much fun. And the Scabs, of course, knows a route out. He takes Kal and his brand new fries all the way through these horrible tunnels. You're kidding? I was born in these tunnels. I spent most of the best part of my childhood down here. Yes, I always wondered where you acquired that unique aroma of yours.
Yeah, and he's like, "Do you think that's any way to treat a highborn noblewoman?" He's like, "You want to ungag her and go ahead, be my guest."
Jericho, you stump-diving lowlife, you pox-ridden scabber. We'll have you killed for this, and we'll have things done to you that even the redemptionist best torturers haven't thought of. Spirited type, isn't she?
And he's basically like, yeah, it's like, is it safe to let her loose in the upper hive? And he's like, one more blood-crazed maniac shouldn't make much difference into the House of Catalyst gene pool, but you have a point. And he's like, Scab's like, you're kidding. He's like, no, she's job's a wipeout. She's too long and damaged goods. So he's basically saying, I can take her back, but her family won't want her. And again, they probably would just kill her and then kill him.
Yeah.
Knowing how the underhive and the class system works in that. It would just be like, nah.
At least there's still the 1,000 cred outlaw bounty on her, and you don't have to say anything about her having to bring her in alive. Hardly very gentlemanly, Scabs. Besides, she might be a psychotic misfit, but I rather like that in a way. Call me a gullible romantic, but I haven't quite got the heart to hand her over to the tender mercies of the guild. Well, not for a mere 1,000 creds anyway. She seems like a resourceful type. I dare say, given an hour or two, she'll be able to untie herself. And didn't you once say there were hive spiders living in these tunnels? Great big uns. Seen them suck a body dry in minutes. Fascinating. What a truly interesting childhood you must have had, Scabs. Well, you can't say we haven't given her a sporting chance, as he throws the knife over for her. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Again, it's very much kind of setting up. He has his code. It's not quite ethical, but there's some morals to it. But it's also financially motivated, because he's basically just saying it's not worth the money to hand her over and to see what would be done to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or is that a case of, because it's such a low bounty, he can justify not handing her over?
Mm-hmm. I think he kind of just realises, I actually quite like the spirit she's got, so here's a fighting chance, and I'm just going to leave you to it.
Again, It is very much just say that probably more Nikolai Dante than Han Solo at that ending.
Yes, I think so. It's horrible to think that when you say Nikolai Dante, the first story that always pops into my brain is the one from that 2000 AD sex issue, and I wish I could scrub that out of my head.
I think that speaks more to you than...
It may be, but I think it's just such an unpleasant issue that it's kind of lodged itself in my brain and I can't get rid of it.
Yet you still have your copy.
I do not, actually. That was lost long ago.
But no, it's very much just that you're kind of setting up it gives you enough outs for Kal in terms of what his character is. Does he have some morals, or is it just money? Again, it kind of sets him up about, it's like, yeah, he does the bounties, but he's not kindly disposed to the guild.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of, he's very much kind of, it's the whole, he does not jibe with any kind of authority. He's a full rogue, but again, you're not leaning him too much one way or the other.
No, he's his own person who does his own thing and chafes at the idea of anybody giving him orders or putting him into a box. He just goes off and does his stuff.
But he's not too kind, he's not too callous, which is one of these things you're always trying to strike that balance between keeping the edges, but not making him too much of an edgelord, or not making him obviously too sentimental, which would mean he'd be dead instantly. So you can walk a tightrope with that.
Yeah. Is it just me, by the way, or does Scabs look like the guy who played the inventor in Blade Runner? The little guy whose name I can't remember his name.
Yes, he very much does have that kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. I love these first two panels. Scabs, is it my imagination? Have you really been lying unconscious for the last 3 days? What? Kal, I was just holding psychic communion with the Emperor, contemplating the 10,000 liturgies of faith, sleeping off an ugly wild snake brew hangover. Get up, Scabs, I've got work for you. 2 panels does everything it needs to do to get the story rolling. It's really, really well done.
Again, Gordon, having done enough 2000 AD work at this point, knows, and again, it's like, you've got limited space. Keep the story moving. Page 1 tells you, here's what we're going to do, here's our mystery, here's our hook. Mm-hmm. And like page 2, found her. Like I say, as I said, we're not wasting time on the bits that aren't going to matter. Are there adventures he had on the way to find her? Probably. But are they important to the story we want to tell? He goes in, does the whole, it's not about, his greatest weapon is not his ability to fight, shoot with a sword. It's his thinking on his feet.
Yeah.
He goes in quite clearly knowing that I'm going to walk in here, I'm going to say my piece, and they're probably going to try and kill me. So right away, it's just like, oh, hello, bang. Actually,
love the sequence of him throwing the grenade into the fire. It's
the fact that when he has his hands up, he has the grenade in his hand.
Yeah.
As he bows to in deference to them and to Lady Yolanda, just puts it in the way. So puts himself in front of the fire, away you go.
Yeah.
And then on the next panel, you can see him starting to move round the side. Very good staging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, massively.
Because as it stands just now, he's just chucked a grenade on a fire. He is the one closest to the fire. What do you think happened to him at that point?
Kaboom means kaboom.
Correct. So he's moving round the side. So it's just a nice little bit of staging.
It's solid. Absolutely solid. I love it.
It is an important thing to watch and to be mindful of when again it goes into comic storytelling, is the artist being mindful of the physical space that the characters inhabit.
Yeah,
happens more often than not, than people forget that, because the script direction says draw this, draw that. Being mindful of the physical location that you've put them in, as in what makes sense.
Yeah. And there's something I think that people often forget is that when you create an environment in your comic, you have to know where the boundaries are, where to move things around, and it's a difficult thing to do, and it's done so well here. Kal Kapansky does it absolutely beautifully. Honestly, this has been such a damn good issue, and having a damn good issue that ends on such a high has made me an incredibly happy man. It's like, yes, finally, it's coming together.
Yeah, and this is the second one-off tale we've had from Kal Jericho, so we're kind of slowly giving a flavour of him rather than engaging in a longer, more sustained story, which we will get. Yeah, because it's clearly the intent. Because you've had your one-off character, and he's the first one to come back.
Yes, and Kal Jericho kind of ends up being the figurehead, the face of Necromunda going forward from not too far from now, actually. I think Necromunda gets a second edition early 2000s, which is just books, if memory serves me right, and they reuse the existing miniatures. But Kal Jericho gets a miniature, and he gets really pushed into the frame.
Yeah, it's one of these things that quite clearly when you're introducing a rogue type character, it takes a long to do it. You've got two choices. You either need to be quite firmly established in terms of and clear on the tale that you're telling, or as what we're doing here is we're just getting little snippets of the world and letting him show off a bit, and you're getting to establish who he is that way. Because it's quite telling. David Bishop, to go back to 2000 AD, sorry kids, I know you're blind drunk now. But Nikolai Dante had something like an 18-month development period from the first, because they redrafted the first story based on...
Right.
So Nikolai Dante had quite a long gestation period before it dropped, which meant it was so fully realised, ready to go, and basically hit the ground running. Whereas...
That's insane.
Yeah. But I think it's because the editor knew, it's like, this can be successful, but this needs a bit of polish first before we go, and worked with them. So again, but with this, it's a newly established comic. You don't really have the luxury of doing that potentially. And it's a case of, no, just drip feed them in, show them being cool. The tales themselves are nice and light-hearted as well, which I think helps, because even though we joke about like the characters are killed, there's a nice cartoony edge that takes a little bit of the grimness away from that, which is a nice contrast with, I think, every other strip is so super serious in that.
Yes.
And again, 40k is up its own arse, and always has to be, because that's how you tell it, which is why you've got room to then do stories in and around it which are quite light-hearted and having fun with the premise. So this is nice that it makes it stand out more, and it's quite effective. And humour in comics is a difficult thing, particularly in kind of what you would see traditionally kind of the, let's say, sort of more North American style, in that, oh yeah, humour doesn't work, we don't do humour, we don't sell it. It's like, well, which flies in the face of it, given that most anything that is bad humour doesn't sell, but good humour does.
Oh, absolutely.
I can give you enough recommendations of superhero comics that are funny to go and read. Giffen and DeMatteis Justice League being number one.
I was going to say Justice League's one. The first run of Deadpool, that's actually surprisingly funny, with a lot of heart.
Oh, joke again. Rob Liefeld may have devised the character of Deadpool. Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness are why people love Deadpool.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That first run by those two is exemplary. Really good.
Much as, again, because he's a scumbag, I really liked Warren Ellis's Next Wave, particularly with Fin Fang Foom the dinosaur putting people in his pants. Ridiculous, but it's still funny.
I wasn't going to bring up Warren Ellis, but as you mentioned him, Transmet. Transmet kills me at times. It's so damn funny.
I would also say Preacher.
Yep.
While humour is not the main focus of the book, it has its tongue firmly in cheek for most of it, and yeah.
If I have a face like an ass, so be it.
I was more thinking, my favourite book is Salvation, when he finds his mum, and when he confronts the clan. Just that reveal, it picks up, where the fuck is your chin? It's...
Cassidy meeting the wannabe vampires.
Oh yeah, or when Hairstar gets his cock bitten off by the dog.
He gets the little cut on the top of his head.
Yeah, then sits in... again, funny's funny, and again, but you need it, again, with an anthology, you need contrast. It needs to be...
Yes.
You need something, a little bit for something for everyone, because the whole point about an anthology book is you will find yourself lucky in that there will be periods where everything in it clicks with you. But you'll find it won't always be the case, and some you'll like more than others. But what you're doing, if you're creating an anthology or curating an anthology, you can make it about the same theme, or in this case, it's set in and around Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, but you need the stories to differ in tone and approach, which probably means it's probably why Darkblade and Bloodquest were probably looked on less favourably at the start, in that they're both much the same.
Yeah.
At its core concept. One of them has found its feet and is about to kick open the doors big style. The other feels like it's just in a rut.
But it's funny, from where we started, had Darkblade and Bloodquest were kind of at level, but I had high hopes for Darkblade, whilst feeling very, very, very flat on Bloodquest. And as time's gone on, and we've now got into the issue 6, Bloodquest is like, I'm excited to read the next one. I am really excited to read the next one. Darkblade, I don't really care. It's not that I actively don't want to read the next one. I just don't care about it, which I think in some ways is kind of a worse feeling.
Oh, yes. To look at is, to borrow the wrestling vernacular, is if the crowd react, that's what you want.
Yeah.
If they don't react, you're done.
Yeah.
If the crowd boo you, that's fine. They're engaging with you. Now, even if they don't mean to boo you, you can then transition as a character. Someone's got a sense, let's make you a bad guy now. And again, it's the same thing if you're meant to be a bad guy and they're cheering you, we're going to make you a good guy now. You're getting the reaction. But if I'm just looking at it going, aye, like I say, I don't actively hate it. It's just there's nothing to hang for Darkblade. There's nothing to hang on. Whereas, and let's be clear, as we said, this Kal Jericho story is not Shakespeare. It's not War and Peace.
Oh God, no.
It's a nice, cohesive little tale that lets me know this guy's a bit of a lovable rogue. I enjoy what he does. The cartooning is absolutely top notch by Carl. I'd like to see more because I want to see more of what you can do with this. But again, we're just drip feeding, and that's again, this will be by design. It's like we'll give you one off, give you another one off, maybe one or two. Now you've primed the pump. People want to see more. Whereas with Darkblade, we're now at the point that we cannot wait for that strip to end.
No, want it gone. Especially knowing what's going to replace it. Shadowfast is going to be the thing that replaces it. So, yeah, very, very excited by that one.
Again, Simon Harrison, 2000 AD, Strontium Dog, take 2 fingers, in fact, take 4. In fact, sink your drink, guys. You have now been forewarned. There will be several months of me spooging everywhere and being as unobjective as anybody can be. I'm warning you in advance.
It's coming. You're not going to get away from it, unfortunately.
But yeah, so it's a case of you're drip feeding in Jericho, and again, it's enough. And again, short burst, 6-7 pages. Yeah, I'm liking this. Let's see more of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And without getting too much into my memory, I do remember that Jericho kicks a lot of stuff off. He comes back fairly regularly. I don't think he gets more than 2-parters, though. I think 2-parters is the maximum he gets for a story.
That's not a bad thing because you're also looking at part of what you're looking at with the free. And as I mentioned earlier when we talk about like the likes of a 2000 AD, Battle of Warlord, Eagle, what have you, weekly you can build up those longer stories.
Mm-hmm.
Monthly's a bigger task. Even if you look at in terms of anthologies in the US, were an uphill battle for the most part. Marvel managed Marvel Comics Presents for near enough 200 issues, give or take, 180, I think.
Yeah.
But a lot of the reason that book lasted was it was fortnightly, 8 pages a pop. When it became sort of biggish, it was stunt casted and had things dropped into it. Like Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, the origin of Wolverine. Newsflash, it's not the origin of Wolverine, it's just how he gets his bones. I do a very distinct disservice, by the way. That is gorgeous. It is World War III.
Well, Barry Windsor Smith, the man was a beautiful artist.
And then you get Peter David and then Sam Keith on Wolverine. I love Sam Keith.
Same.
Beautiful stuff. But then it's like, Wolverine's popular, we keep him in the book. Guess who else is also popular? Ghost Rider. He's in the book. So you then have these things, whereas Dark Horse Presents is probably the only sort of reasonably long and sort of 80s to 90s thing, which again, they put in big heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank Miller's Sin City debuts in there, so you know.
Yeah.
But it's a hard sell to do that. And with a month away, you kind of, if your page count is short, you need to use this wisely. Mm-hmm. And again, I think doing 8 pages a month, telling a long drawn out story with Jericho is probably a big ask.
Yeah, I think so.
That seems to be, we know the limitations of the format, not so much the character, but the limitations of the format will impact the story you tell.
Yes, absolutely. What Jericho has a real energy to him, so trying to keep that over multi-part issues is going to be really difficult. Not impossible, but difficult.
And again, the whole part is sometimes it's like, I wanted to eight Kal Jericho stories in a row. Fine, make them 1 or 2-parters. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to all be one big long one. Presence, so that will work as well. It's just know your strengths, bring it in and out when you need to. Whereas, as I say, and if you're doing a long form story, as we've seen, I think looking at it, Bloodquest has probably been the most successful in terms of if you look at it, and again looking at your reaction is like I was more positive from the start. But it's built.
It has, yeah, absolutely.
The seeded stuff, whereas Titan, I think, had the opportunity, but the truncated page count, and I think, as we both agree, this issue's story needed to be 2 parts or bigger. It's not had this, and it just feels like we're stopped dead rather than we're. Whereas Bloodquest feels it's building and it's escalating. It's escalated gradually, and now bang.
Now we're into the good stuff.
We're building to something big.
Yes.
And Darkblade feels like it's plodded along, and it's plodding along.
Well, I think, as I said before, the biggest issue with Darkblade for me is that it doesn't feel like it's cohesive at all. It feels like it just things happen. It feels like it's there to make a page count. It doesn't feel like anyone's invested. And I say that knowing that Hopgood's done some absolutely amazing work in it. It looks gorgeous.
And it's to be clear, not every creative effort is going to be a winner.
No, of course not.
The thing, and this is not to say Dan Abnett is a bad writer, as we've said repeatedly, he is not. But there will be a combination of, there will be things that he does that will be good, bad, not to my taste.
Yeah.
I think Darkblade had an uphill battle anyway to me, right from the get-go, because it very much, oh look, I love Elric, I love Michael Moorcock, so guess what? That's already there. If you've got big shoes to fill, an uphill battle to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you've got that. You've got Drizzt from Dragonlance. Going around, whichever one it is. You've got Vampire Hunter D, and all these three elements are very much, we want our Warhammer version of this. And because it's built of these three elements, he doesn't have a voice to himself. He's just there.
It feels where, and again, as we said, we've talked to length, so is Warhammer 40,000 has had an associated lore has had, and setting has had a better deal and a better shake of it so far than Fantasy. We hope that course corrects. Like I say, Darkblade's going to finish next issue. I'd like it to end on promise of that I'd like something to come back and be enthused that when it comes back for part 2, I'm not just going to be going, I like Kev Hopgood's art.
Yeah.
Digging the story out. But I think we can agree. Like I say, it's not an awful story. It just doesn't have enough to it.
No, it's just, there's no meat to it. There's no weight. Let's stop kicking Darkblade.
We'll add not kicking Darkblade to the not kicking the contents page, and we'll see how it
if you're listening at home, add that to the list.
Yes.
To the TV tropes page.
Yeah. But all in all, like I say, as you say, probably the strongest issue, even with Darkblade, who I feel is the one that drags it down. I would say Daemonifuge just edges it narrowly from me from Bloodquest in terms of just getting it. Bloodquest has a lot of promise now going forward, but I'm just on board. Again, Kev Walker's artwork just narrowly taking it a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're talking a hair's width rather than any sort of gulf. Titan, as I said, I feel that the truncated ending and the reduced page count and just like a lack of reaction to things hurts this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It stops what's on the page is very solid, which could have elevated to very good.
Yeah. It's a 7 out of 10, but it should have been a 9.
And it's easy to see where the gaps are.
Yeah.
Loving art. I do, again, we joked about Nick Fury and Wolverine. Now, comic artists will always do with that and chuck Easter eggs in. It's nice when they do it, but they don't get in the way of the story.
Yes.
He's not been called Princeps Logan.
Loganera, yeah.
Or shit like that. It's just like, I've drawn a guy who looks like Wolverine. Why? Because I thought it'd be funny.
Yes, it is. It made me very happy.
And you're also looking at, there is part of it that goes, how much, as I say, we know there is a crossover between mainstream comics and VK, but how much? And again, are you more a sort of 2000 AD reader as opposed to sort of capes and cowls?
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't know actually, because late 90s, that would have been the height of my capes and cowls reading, I think. Yeah.
But you're also looking at this is after Marvel's gone into bankruptcy. This is in the dark times before Joe Quesada and Bill Jamask take in and things become a bit more experimental and freewheeling for a while.
Oh, honestly, Joe Q as editor-in-chief was a good time. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that came out then.
It was good, but there was good and bad. But again, Grant Morrison on X-Men, Peter David and Chris Cross on Captain Marvel.
Yep.
Which I think technically started. I know that predates Joe Q, actually. Comes out of 99 to 2000, because it comes out at the end of Avengers Forever by Busiek and Pacheco.
Yeah. And when did Joe Q take over?
He takes over 2000-ish.
Okay, all right. So yeah, it's not as big a difference as I thought it was.
No, it's around 2000 to 2000. Yeah, because he starts getting editors, and again we can go on.
Yeah, it's more me trying to make a timeline of my own memories and failing miserably. When you get old kids.
Yeah, but no, definitely the strongest issue. We're six in. I feel we're finding a bit more of our feet. Like I say, the cover niggles are gone. We've kind of crystallised that looks good. We've got, and I say, everything's come together. certain strips are kicking up into gear. We've got a new, I say, Daemonifuge will be the ongoing that goes in when the first lineup vanishes, because that's also it's also telling when you get turnover, it's trying to ensure that not all the strips end at the same time.
Yes.
Because what you can do it periodically because it helps, because a good jumping on point is not a bad thing to entice a new reader. And 2000E will regularly do that throughout the year, where they'll have a 3 or 4 jumping on points, where it's every story is new, or it's the first part of a new Judge Dredd tale as well, because obviously Dredd's in every issue, ain't going anywhere.
No.
You'll have that. But throughout the year, in between that, you'll have stories finish and start while other ones are in mid-flight. So it'll be interesting to see. We're nearing the point where all the old lineup's gone, and it will just be new stuff in its place.
Yeah.
What does that look like? We probably want to see if we can track it down. It might be difficult because I don't think Games Workshop ever submitted this to the ABC for getting circulation figures.
Ooh.
Because you used to have the ABC thing, which was in sort of UK stuff, and you would get an idea of the audit of circulation, and you would get an idea of how many copies were sold.
I'll look into that. I know a few people that might be able to point me in the direction of something if they're ever out there.
Because you can get copies of what gets sold through. Roughly, you can guesstimate from anything that's submitted through Diamond in terms of the North American market and goes through there. But you're looking at when they were selling this directly in their stores as well. So although Games Workshop are a publicly traded company, I don't think they were they at the time. When did they float? They didn't.
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Purely just interesting to get a concept. As we've said, we know that the book did enough and did well enough, because Games Workshop are, to be fair, quite ruthless if something isn't making money to get rid of it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If it's not making enough money as well. So this is clearly in good health, but it'd be nice to get an idea just so we can periodically look at it in terms of where it is and where it's been.
Yeah, it's an interesting slice of history, I think. Trying to see where we are, and there's a lot of information that's left hanging that I very much want to try and get my hands on somehow, which I think would answer a few of the things that we've been asking. And it's interesting as well to see where Games Workshop was at that point. And I think that's something I'm going to start doing, is looking to see what was actually coming out on the month of each issue, because there's a lot of stuff that is all happening back and forth. There's a really interesting thing I didn't know, and I've only just discovered here. Did you know that Warhammer Monthly won the Best New British Comic in 1999?
I did not, but however, or if I did, I forgot. However, given what was being printed out in them, I can see why.
In 2000, it was nominated for Favourite British Comic. 2001, nominated again. And in 2005, it won Favourite British Comic. Weird. Yeah, so, yeah. We can now call it award-winning Warhammer Monthly.
Yeah, it's worth having a little look. Try. I think Steve Holland used to do sales figures for it. So for comics, maybe worth
just reaching out and having a.
His website is his website still up?
Yes.
The unfortunate thing with things on the web is they're not always permanent.
No.
Yes, his blog is still up. So this is potentially having a look through at some point if he still has his sales figures kicking about.
I shall have a look at that and see what I can find out. Yeah. It would be interesting to know. It really would be. So I think with all that being said anyhow, I think we shall get ourselves out of here. So as always, thank you, Mr. Turnbull, for joining me today.
Oh, pleasure as always.
And thank you for you guys listening at home, if indeed you still are. Goodbye.
Farewell.